Good evening. Welcome to Soundtracks with Birdman. Tuesday night stream. It's May 4th, so may the force be with you, everyone. Thank you for coming by. I totally forgot that this was today. I know my water bill's due on the 6th, but I forgot that today was Star Wars Day. Someone new tonight, Ian Clark from Edinburgh, Scotland. Thank you for coming by. I realize it's late or early, depending on your life choices over there. And Big Al Presents and Troy Pacelli. Tonight we're going to discuss Star Wars music, what we think about Star Wars music, and any other happy memories from Star Wars. The toys, the movie posters, books, comic books. It's all on the table. I just want to have a good discussion about Star Wars. Mr. Ian, tell us about your Star Wars experience growing up in Great Britain, if you don't mind.
Well, I first saw Star Wars in 1978, which is when it first came out in the UK, the very beginning of 78. And I'd seen trailers for it at the cinema. I must admit, when I first saw the first trailer in 1977, I was 9 years old, and it looked a bit goofy to me. That's the memory I have. It looked a bit daft. But over the next kind of 6 or 7 months, kind of Star Wars fever hit the UK, and I fell in love with it. When I eventually did see it in an army town in the south of England called Aldershot, I was absolutely blown away by it. And I persuaded my mum and dad to buy me the soundtrack on cassette tape.
Wow!
Which I still
have it.
Which I still have. It doesn't really, I mean, it plays, but it's a bit stretched now. So I haven't played it for about 15 years or so. But yeah. And again, I was disappointed when I first heard this, because I thought the Star Wars soundtrack was the Miko disco.
Oh, yeah.
So when I heard this, I was absolutely gutted, as we say in the UK. But I did fall in love with it eventually, and this started my love for John Williams and all things soundtracky. So yeah, it had a huge impact on my life. Huge.
What about you, Troy? I think you're the second oldest person on this stream.
I will accept that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I will carry that banner with pride. I saw it the year it released, and I was one of those kids that was desperate for the toys that did not hit the market by Christmas. However, my parents weren't savvy enough to understand the marketing that was going on, which in fairness was a very new model. This whole idea of, well, we don't have the toys yet, so pay us for this little piece of paper, and you can mail it in, and you'll receive 4 action figures, in a couple of months. So I never got in on the early bird special, but I really took to Star Wars right from the beginning. Very disappointed. Again, as young as I was, didn't understand the way soundtracks work and stuff like that. So I very much was aware of the score. And that was, that Star Wars theme. That was the Star Wars music. And it was nice to hear that Miko tune on the radio. But that was the only, I got the 45 of that because that was the only way you could get some sort of a release version.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand albums quite yet to understand, getting the soundtrack. So it wasn't until years later that I got the full score and the full soundtrack. And it was even later than that I realized that John Williams, this musical genius who did all the music for Star Wars that I loved so much, had also scored, many other films and TV shows that I loved. Even now, I'm just recently realizing. Lost in Space, did not realize. How
did you not realize that?
Both soundtracks, both themes, and I loved them, but I had no idea it was him. Yeah. Yeah, it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that was him. Yeah.
What about you, Big Al?
Well, Star Wars came out the day before my 12th birthday, May 25th, 1977. I was the last day of my 11th year on this earth, and but of course back then it wasn't as widely released. They kind of had to piecemeal it out to a few cities, so it took a while for it to get to my local theater, a few weeks. And so it was sometime in June, I think I finally got around to seeing it. And I remember originally wavering as if I wanted to see it or not, because growing up, I was a huge Star Trek fan. And being a Star Trek fan, I thought I would be cheating, for lack of a better word, on Star Trek if I went to go see Star Wars. So, but I was just a kid. I wanted to go to the movies, and I went to go see it. And that, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then that, that hit, and I'm like, this is the most awesome thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And for the next 2 hours, I was just in that galaxy. I was hanging on every moment. I was leaning in my seat as the X-Wings were attacking the Death Star, and I went Yahoo just as Han Solo did when he came in and saved the day. And it literally was a life-changing night the first time I saw that. Yeah. I have not been the same since, literally. I lived in a world where there was Star Wars, and I have ever since been a big fan. And I'm still a fan of both. They can coexist. What a lot of people still don't realize for some reason, fandoms can coexist within one person. But it was a life changer, and I got that black album, full LP with just Star Wars written on it, and I just played that opening part again and again.
Did we lose you, Al?
Al? I just want to welcome the chat real fast since we lost Al. Samuel Proctor, Melissa Harris, and Andrew. Thanks for coming by. Andrew, haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you again. Where you been hiding? You got any Star Wars stories to tell? Share them, please. We'd love to hear them. Tonight, it's all just about Star Wars. No movies to discuss, just talking about Star Wars. Samuel Proctor, I completely forgot. The Boston Pops dropped a live video of Imperial March Day, and I was like, oh, yeah, that is today. I forgot. So then I thought, I need to do something. So I pieced this together real fast. I think we lost Al, but I'm sure he'll be back. So, Andrew, did you have the action figures in Great Britain in 78?
Palatoy, right?
When you say Andrew...
I'm sorry, not Andrew. Ian. I'm sorry. I was looking at Andrew's name, but Ian, did you have the action figures?
I didn't. They were on sale here, and they were very popular. And friends of mine had them, but I never had them. It was something I wasn't allowed to have for some reason. I remember wanting them, desperately wanting them, because everybody else that I knew had them, but I was never allowed them. I remember that the only thing I was really allowed to have was when the Stan Lee comic came out. And I think that was in 6 parts. It was 6 or 12. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But I remember getting that. I think it was. I can't remember whether it was every 2 weeks or every month or whatever the frequency of that coming out. And I remember they had cutout kind of posters and cutout things you could fold and make these really crappy little models of an X-Men TIE fighter out. So I absolutely butchered these comics. And then I remember seeing about 20, 25 years later, somebody who had mint copies of these things and they were worth a small fortune. And I just remember cutting mine up into tiny bits. But I never had the little figures, and I always wish I did.
I think my first figure was Darth Vader. If I remember correctly, it was Darth Vader. What about you, Troy? I'm sure you still have all yours.
I do. The of the original 12, I'm trying to remember. I think there was only 7 of it when they were finally in the stores. There was only about 7 of the original 12. At my first go around. So I got. I don't think I got the Jawa right away. Tusken Raider didn't come right away. There was like a couple others that took a while. And trying to convince your mother not only that you need to get all of these action figures, but then there's
all of them.
Yeah, then there's the different outfits. There's the army building, right? So you don't just buy one stormtrooper, right? So that was a bit of a challenge. Here
now I only ever bought one stormtrooper.
I did too.
And every time he'd get shot down, you'd have to pick him up and he'd become a whole other stormtrooper, right?
Yeah, he kept coming back.
Yeah, no,
that would be the thing though. If you had a stormtrooper, you would need about 12 of them to make it worthwhile. You need a platoon.
Exactly. Well, see, and that's just the case. And anybody who was, if you weren't a Star Wars fan over in the UK, it was what? Action Man? Same thing. It was army building. You needed, your whole army in order to stage battles. I mean, it is Star Wars after all. Exactly. And it's a lot easier to do with 3 3/4 inch action figures than it was with the 12-inch, G.I. Joe / Action Man, scale figures. And who could afford Jeeps and planes in those scales? So then when they got so much smaller, then you could get the land speeder, the X-Wing, the TIE fighter, for what it would cost to get one G.I. Joe Jeep, Mm-hmm. See, that's how I sold it to my mother. I was economizing here. Ma, this isn't like when my Uncle Richard used to get G.I. Joe. This is, much smaller, much cheaper.
And now let's just say you do have a wife that bought you the sail barge.
Yeah, so that's true. I mean, I was talking about 1970s. Since then, I've grown up, and what's the difference between the men and the boys? The size of their feet and the price of their toys. And I do happen to have an incredible wife who enables me to, in fact, she's the one who will say, at the end of the week, hey, we got a little extra money in the budget. Was there any action figures you were looking for? No, I'm okay this week, honey. Thank you. And yeah. So, and she's blowing me kisses over here.
Making up my lack of.
Well, speaking of the sail barge,
my lack of.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say I've been making up for my lack of having. The figures when I was a child by buying Star Wars Lego recently. When I say
something
recently,
I never got into personally. Yeah. Plus, my understanding is that there's an incredible handicap now for collectors in the UK trying to get many of the like exclusives and slightly harder to find Star Wars toys. That sail barge that he mentioned, which was a HasLab exclusive, $500 kickstart from Hasbro, huge, and it was only available in the continental United States. So anyone outside of the United States that wanted one had to have a buddy that was willing to, get it for them and ship it to them. There's incredible YouTube stories about channels that would get it for somebody and physically came to, in this case, went to Australia to deliver this huge toy because they couldn't get it otherwise. So that is the benefit of being a fan in the modern day. We're all connected by the internet. We can help each other out.
Yep.
Yeah. As long
I
as you've got the
remember.
money.
Yeah.
I remember the first toy I ever got from Star Wars was Luke's land speeder. I didn't even have a figure to put in it yet. So I think the first figure I ever got was Luke, so I could put him in the land speeder.
Yeah.
And I think close by, or maybe at the same time, I got 3PO and R2, and I know like the rest of them were not far behind, but I don't remember the exact order. But
Was it, and I assume you mean Farm Boy Luke?
Farm Boy Luke,
Okay.
yeah, with the two. Well, originally that's the only one,
right? I just had a lot of friends where their first one was either the X-wing pilot, or even not until the fatigues of the Empire Strikes Back.
Bespin fatigues.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it was. But like you said, it was a while before those toys came out, and there was a long waiting period. But I don't remember like thinking I'm missing out on something, because it's not like we were really well off or anything, so I didn't have a lot anyway, and I still had my, every now and then I would get a model of the Enterprise and build it again, because I used to do several of those over time, because I would play with it and it would eventually fall apart and die. But yeah, when those toys started to hit, it was kid to toy store, basically. Yeah, I still have a Darth Vader head full of those figures somewhere, I think, unless they walked somehow.
You're about to move, so you'll probably find them.
That's one of the things on my list that I've said I want those in my visual range before we leave here. That's one of the things I'm hoping to get through this weekend, when we got a few people coming in to kind of start moving some stuff. But it's yeah, those things from, I have the old room that I used to be in is where all like became a storage room, but there was like an X-Wing, TIE fighters, a Millennium Falcon, but I don't know the condition or if all the pieces are still there or not. But I want to locate as much of that stuff as I can, because I do plan to probably sell it for a little cash, because I just don't have room for stuff like that anymore. The big stuff like that. I'm very happy with smaller stuff, but I do like the mid, like I said, if I can find if my X-Wing's in good shape, I'll probably keep that. I like that size, but the Millennium Falcon's just too big for me right now to have. And I still have a Y-wing to build from Legos.
Send me a picture of that when you get it together.
Thanks to the Birdman. Oh, I definitely will. I'm looking for, like I said, once I'm settled in and I've got space all figured out, that's like one of the things one of the projects I want to do, is to finally get that together.
And your wife Troy's talking about your ginormous Millennium Falcon.
Oh, that's my pride and joy. She's incredible. I told that story last week on my channel. She in the early days of eBay, she was looking for a challenge. Is there something that you've always wanted that you didn't think you'd ever be able to get? And I said, yeah. I said, look up Millennium Falcon Extraordinaire. It was a store display for Toys R Us here in the States. It was vacuum plastic. It looked superficially like the Kenner Millennium Falcon, but it was much larger. And in truth, it was truly to scale with the action figures. So about 6 feet in length, but completely hollow, so it could hang from the ceiling. And this came out in like 92, because that was with that 90s Power of the Force, those new figures. Said, if you can find one of those for me, that'd be pretty awesome. And it was right in the $500-600 range, and they couldn't ship it. It was just too, even though it wasn't heavy, it was just big. We had to drive out to Cleveland, Ohio in order to get that. So about a 9-hour drive, and then borrowed a buddy's Jeep, and we had to put it on top of the Jeep because it wouldn't fit in the back. So we're driving down the turnpike with Millennium Falcon strapped to the top of our Jeep.
Flying over top of you. I must say, to have a wife,
6 feet.
To have a wife that allows you,
not only allows but facilitates,
that. You roll triple cherries on that
right?
slot machine,
right?
You're like ching ching ching.
Yup.
I don't see any on eBay. So, I don't see any on eBay right now.
Millennium Falcon.
They're hard to find. Yeah, there was a recall on them. They, like I said, they were store displays, and they had like a lighting system inside them, and the lighting went bad and caused fires, so they recalled them. So the only ones that still had them out there were stores that were like, we lost it. We don't know what happened to it, and then put it up on eBay.
Andrew brings up the Mecco Star Wars.
Yep.
I'm not familiar with that.
The disco release of the theme and the cantina.
Okay.
Yeah,
they had the little they had like the laser bolt sounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like disco, and I remember that was one of the big hits of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. I think it was. I don't know if it was. It was an award show, and it was up for Song of the Year between that and two other songs, and there was a tie for first, and it lost. But the production they put on was so popular, they redid it on the live show. They got so many phone calls to the studio, they decided to redo the presentation they did for it. That was a wild time.
And back then, everybody was doing their. The 70s was a time for variety shows. So Donnie and Marie had their Star Wars episode, and
the Muppets.
The Muppets was great because that was
classic.
They brought in Mark Hamill and Peter Mayhew and Anthony Daniels and R2D2. I specify R2D2 because Kenny Baker had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Did he not?
No, they literally just used one of the remote control units.
That's a shame. Samuel Proctor says the Lego TIE Advance is his favorite. Ian, what's your favorite Lego Star Wars set?
Advanced.
Well, I always loved, because of that opening shot in New Hope, that I just loved the Star Destroyer, especially the Star Destroyer from Empire Strikes Back, when you were getting all the detail down the sides of it. The sheer scale of those things, it just blew my mind.
I still, to this day, love the Tantive 4.
Yes.
Really?
The first ship you ever see, the Rebel blockade runner, the Tantive 4. I love that ship. It was a preliminary design for the Millennium Falcon that they kind of refitted. But it looked. I think they said it looked too much like Space 1999's Eagle, and so
I can kind of see that.
So they kind of rethought the entire design, but kept that design and used it as the blockade runner. So, but I always liked that. I remember initially not being the biggest fan of the Millennium Falcon. It took me a little while to warm up to it, because it always weirded me out that the cockpit is on the side.
Well, how did you feel about the Slave One then?
It's worse.
Yeah.
I was like, the Slave One, what the hell is going on here?
I see what you're saying.
That doesn't look right. Something's wrong. But I mean, it makes sense now. And even through Mandalorian, that you see the inner workings as to doing what it does.
Yeah,
the pivoting, it gives you more of an idea of what's going on in the interior of that ship.
What were you saying, Ian?
I was going to say, I remember as a kid never figuring out Slave One. You know, seeing it landed and it was down one way, and then when you
Yeah.
see it flying, it was another way. It took me years to figure out what was going on there and how that would work. And as you say, in the
I had
Mandalorian,
the
you see the
advantage.
whole pivoting thing inside.
Sure. I had the advantage of a buddy of mine had the ship, the toy, you know. And even though it wasn't exactly to scale, it had the gantry that opened to put, you know, the frozen Han Solo in, and you could put Boba Fett into the cockpit, and the cockpit rotated. And it really wasn't until recently with the like he was saying with the Mandalorian, where you could actually see those details in action, you know, from the inside of the ship. But yeah, the toys really made all the difference sometimes, because it was hard to conceptualize a lot of those details, just as you said. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because being a fan of starship design, like coming originally from Star Trek in the 2001, the Discovery.
Sure.
But then you get into all the different designs in Star Wars and just how rich it was. That's why I know a lot more people focus more on story, but man, those visuals to me, even like I said, even as under thought of as the sequels are, there's still some really cool designs of ships in those. Like the original design of the X-Wing, where the engine splits and you have that half moon.
That Z95 headhunter look.
Yeah, I see. I don't think as though I don't pick up names. I just go, that X-Wing with the,
Yeah, no, but
yeah,
you're able to describe it. I know what you
instead
mean.
of the 4 circles, they had the 2 circles and they split.
Yep.
Like Poe's ship. That was one of the original that was the original concept for the X-Wing.
Yep. Now, not to bring up any controversies or anything like that, but how does everyone feel about the holiday special?
Oh God.
There's some original music there too.
Did you get the holiday special in Great Britain?
Well,
good
no,
point.
no. I mean, it was only years later that I heard about that.
Boy, he dodged a bullet there.
Oh yeah, big style. But there was a book that came out maybe 15, 20 years ago called the Star Wars Vault, and it had all sorts of different things in it. But it had 2 CDs in it, and it had clips from the Star Wars holiday special. and one of them was Carrie Fisher singing some god awful song about.
Yes, they put words to the theme. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, she can hold a tune to a certain extent, but I just thought, if this is what this 1.5 hour or 2 hour holiday special is all about, you can keep it.
It literally, it's a chore. It's like a heavy workout. It's like a heavy leg day. You have to. Sometimes you just have to do it.
In regards,
but you gotta do it.
In regards to Carrie Fisher singing, I think I've revisited it several times, and it's not. I have come to enjoy it for what it is. I don't, I don't think it's as horrible as I think a lot of people hear it as. But I think the real problem is when you hear Carrie Fisher sing, you do expect more from Debbie Reynolds' daughter, and especially if you know the behind the scenes that she specified. One of the reasons she wanted to do this was because she wanted to do some singing, and that was her purpose. So if that's your plan and your goal, then I expect you to really knock it out of the park, not do a passable job,
But it gave us a great Boba Fett animated.
It did launch Boba Fett, so I mean, no, there's that. I would even argue that some of the marketing of some of the toys was directly impacted by it. I'm very much of the what could have been, and how that whole toy line could have been just great. Just because the show wasn't popular and, let's face it, pretty well panned, doesn't mean the toys wouldn't have done well. There are many toy lines that have done very, very well for productions that just absolutely sucked. I mean, let's be honest.
I think with a few trimmings here and there, I think you could probably make that holiday special palatable, or more palatable.
Yeah.
Well, Troy does
for the
do
audience
the rewatch every
at,
year.
which would have been kids.
Well, see, it's funny you say that, because if you and it is available out there on the YouTube. So I mean, if you want to check it out, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying, if you choose to, it is out there. And although it was meant to be a family show, as I watch it again with adult eyes, there are some things in there that not only do I raise my eyebrows at, but especially back in the late 70s, I don't know how they got away with. There's some innuendo there that, I don't think it would even do very well today. But I guess maybe it's because it was the 70s. I don't know.
Yeah, it was bizarre. They were on something interesting.
They as much as admitted it. They said they were tripping balls when they came up with half of their ideas. And it shows. It really shows.
Wow.
Andrew raises
How long did it
a question
actually last?
about Empire Strikes Back. Would y'all want them to have left the Wampa subplot in there, or are you glad it got cut out? Or do y'all know about the Wampa subplot?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking everybody.
Have you? Well, I haven't seen the footage that they filmed.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
There's
very good.
supposed to be a part where, like, as they're leaving, the
problems with the
Wampa
footage
kind of
that
comes
they
in.
had.
Interestingly, it is preserved, at least partly, in the Marvel Comics adaptation of Empire Strikes Back. At least part of it is. Definitely that C-3PO, the scene of him removing the warning sign as they're evacuating the base. You know about that one, right? So part and parcel with the Wampa attack, the Wampas invade the base, and they lock them away in one cavern, and they put up a sign in Arak Besh, some sort of warning. You can't read it because it's in Arak Besh. And when the Imperials overrun the base and everybody's getting out, they're making the last call for the last ship out. As C-3PO is going down the corridor, he goes past the door, he backs up, goes back, tears off the sign, and continues on. And apparently, because of the way Anthony Daniels' hands worked inside that, armor, he had a very difficult time grasping anything. So he had to do many takes trying to get a hold of that piece of paper. And they finally went with the best one they had. And then they completely dropped it all together because they ended up dropping the whole Wampa thing. But it's a great little, if you see a behind the scenes or DVD extra, the Imperials opening the door and then one of them gets pulled in by a Wampa arm. It's almost funny. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's a neat novelty, but it wasn't necessary for the film. It's one of those things that's like, that's kind of cool, but ultimately it wasn't needed. I could see why.
Well, like the Tashi Station scenes in the first movie, or Luke repairing the droids and all that kind of stuff. All of that was completely unnecessary.
Now, I will say they should have kept Biggs' earlier scenes in, because it gives more gravitas to the reactions at the end.
I would have kept that before I put back in the Jabba scene in Star Wars.
Yeah,
which was completely unnecessary when all the exposition was already done by Greedo.
I think I can agree, but I think you could do both. If you're going to make a special edition, make it special. You know,
No, I'm kind of against doing special editions.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Death of the author. That's what I say.
If you're going to do it,
yeah.
If you have the power, you might as well put it in. But I do think you're right. I would have rather had the Biggs Darklighter scenes than the Jabba scene. Although I always liked the original Jabba scene where Jabba's like this guy with an Irish brogue.
Yeah, yeah.
Hun me boy.
In fact, I've done a custom action figure using a Friar Tuck figure.
Oh, see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel sorry for that.
That's why when Han Solo says to him, you're a wonderful human being, because that's because he's saying it to the human actor that he had
exactly.
on the set, who was a little short guy as well. So you can see the eye that Han Solo's looking down to him.
It is kind of funny though that they then make him this huge alien, and the line remains, "You're a wonderful human being."
Yeah.
But it could be like saying, like, you're a real cool cat. You're not really a cat. It's just one of those things.
I think my biggest problem there is for all of George Lucas's skills and abilities, I feel like editing was not his strong suit. No. He needed people in place to tell him, no, less is more. No, you don't need that. I think this scene works better before this scene. Marsha is really the one that saved Star Wars in the editing. There's many documentaries talking about that.
Yeah.
She was the one who trimmed down the trench run scene so that it wasn't fly down and miss. Now we go in for a third run. It's like, no, you're killing the pacing here. And same thing happens when you put in the Greedo scene. After you've already gotten all the exposition done in the Greedo scene, you have all the backstory from that very tense, very cowboyish standoff scene. You don't need to slow it down by repeating everything he just said with Jabba the Hutt, just because now you could do CG, less is more.
Yeah. One of my favorite pre-release stories, though, is George showing an unfinished version to Spielberg without the music.
Oh yeah.
And Spielberg saying, well, you tried, George.
Exactly.
And then John Williams sprinkles his fairy dust on that film and made it what it was. That film's not the same without that music.
George himself has on many occasions gone on record saying that, John Williams is really the one that made Star Wars.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Ian?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never actually tried to watch it with the sound down, to see what that film would be like without that. I can't even find words to describe this score. It is superlative.
Yeah, I don't think our brains could do it.
The film, I think, would die. No.
Yeah.
It's
almost, we're to the point now where we see those scenes, you hear that music.
Yeah. Yeah. When I had mentioned earlier that I didn't originally get the soundtrack. I didn't understand the concept of soundtracks at that age. When it finally aired, they did a special presentation of the original Star Wars on television with, minimal commercial interruptions and no editing. It was completely unabridged. So with commercials, it went on for like 3 hours. I got out audio tapes and I did audio recordings directly, the way a lot of people used to do with Doctor Who before they had VCRs, to get the physical audio of it. And I would listen to it over and over and over again. I could recite to you the dialogue, the sound effects, the music, every single thing.
I used to do that with Buck Rogers when it was on. The TV show. I wish I started that. Well, those audios got played again and again and started sounding funny. Yeah. But Yeah, that I mean, but yeah, I mean the pre VHS era, that's pretty much all you had. I would lay in my room, lights off, listening and just remembering the visuals for it.
It got to the point where I didn't even need to listen to it anymore. I could just, in my mind, I could hear the klaxon and, did you hear that? They've shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness. There'll be no escape for the princess this time. We're doomed. Anyway.
I used to have the story of Star Wars, the record, with the story
me
book in
too.
the middle. And it had Roscoe Lee Brown narrating it. And I always remember it used to start off, with Roscoe Lee Brown saying, "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a great adventure took place," or something along that line. And then when I went to see the film, I was expecting somebody to say that. And when that didn't happen, I was touched disappointed.
Well, the opening scroll, I guess, was supposed to kind of take the place of that, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, I'd listened to this record so many times. The fact it wasn't there was just weirdly jarring. And then, I was so used to listening to portions of the record and certain scenes being cut and flowing into other scenes, and then seeing it expanded on the big screen was just revelatory. I thought, wow, there's more to this than the record. This is brilliant.
Speaking of records, as a kid, I had each of the three movies had these little record books. It was a little storybook that told the story of Star Wars and Empire and Jedi, and it came with a little 45 record that you'd play one side, and R2D2 would beep, and then you'd turn the page and you'd read along. And it was obviously a very abridged version of the stories. And I do remember that the one for Return of the Jedi entirely dropped the whole Leia being Luke's sister storyline. And so it ends with Leia saying, "Come on back to the party, my brave Jedi." And I'm like, oh, this is creepy when you know that they're brother and sister.
Well, I still remember in the early all the early promotional things like the cards and stuff, they always gave the ages, and they always gave their ages different.
Yep.
Luke was always like a couple years older.
Yeah, because they were not planning on them being
They were
twins,
not planning.
no.
And then, of course, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, the book,
yes.
which was a total Luke and Leia kind of
that was
romance fest.
That was the Luke and Leia shipping right there, no doubt about that.
I was all about Luke and Leia, and I remember when Han started flirting with her, I got ticked.
Yep.
I was like, oh man, that ain't right. And it wasn't until you find out it's her sister that I was like, okay. I always felt like Han stole her.
But I always loved it right from the beginning, right? Because you get that, that scene of them in the Millennium Falcon in the very first movie. And he's like, he says to Luke, he's like, "Oh man, I don't know. What do you think? A girl like her and a guy like me?" And he's like, no. Absolutely not. And you see that look on his face. He's like, clearly, He's
taking
the piss, right?
He's pushing Luke's buttons.
Absolutely,
because he knows that Luke likes her.
Yep.
God,
I love that.
It's so cringeworthy when you look back at it.
It is.
George Lucas has always kind of made out that he always planned for Leia to be Luke's sister, but I don't think he did from the very beginning.
If he did, he wouldn't have written Empire the way.
Well,
he
yeah,
did.
I mean, he's obviously thinking of looser morals in the Star Wars universe up to that point, but
he may have planned it. He may have planned it pre-Empire, but it definitely was not there in Star Wars, the original.
No.
I mean,
I think it was something he thought of later.
Fact is, he didn't even plan for Vader to actually be the father until he came up with the idea as he was doing Empire Strikes Back.
And what a marvelous twist!
Oh yeah,
pre-internet.
Yep.
Without a clue, you're sitting in that theater and that thing drops on you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was amazing.
And I would argue this too. You see a lot of people talking about spoilers, right? And they talk about, boy, if you spoiled that for Empire Strikes Back, and I'm like, no. Even if somebody told you the big secret, right? We spent 3 years waiting for Return of the Jedi just to find out if it was true or not, because none of us even believed it. Vader's not exactly a reliable narrator, right?
Yeah, and I love the story behind that. I love how they filmed it. Yeah, and because there was only 3 people at the time they did it who knew the real story, and that was George, well, the director too, but James Earl Jones and Mark Hamill.
Yep. And Mark Hamill didn't know until just the moment he was going out to film it.
Just before they filmed it. Because the line that David Prowse would do all the vocals that would be dubbed over later. And he says Obi-Wan killed your father. Which
was true from a certain point of view.
Yeah, from a certain point of view. But
or at least he left him to die. Actually, it would have been better if he'd have killed him, right? He leaves him to burn to death. You were my brother, Anakin, and he just leaves him there to burn to death on the side of a lava flow. Doesn't even, put him out of his misery. What kind of a friend is that?
And of course, one of the greatest things in Return of the Jedi when Luke is standing above Vader, he goes, Obi-Wan taught you well, because he had the high ground.
Right, exactly.
I love that. And I know it wasn't planned, but it just is. It's one of those great, wonderful circumstances.
But also, Obi-Wan taught him, and he, just like Obi-Wan, he couldn't kill him.
Yeah.
Right?
Andrew
he walked away before the killing blow.
Screenplay. Yeah, Prowse did not know that Vader was Luke's father. He said, and he thought it was Obi-Wan killed your father. Nobody knew. It was a secret until.
In fairness, though, I mean,
as long as they could keep it anyway.
They actually knew that he wasn't someone that could keep a secret, so they really couldn't trust him with it. So
yeah, well, they wanted to keep that as in an internet world that would keeping something that to the vest. I'll give Star Wars credit, and even Disney. I know this is like new Disney Star Wars, but it was a great thing. I did not have clue one that there was going to be little baby Yoda.
Oh yeah,
until that dropped. That was a heck of a well-kept secret in today's internet world. That was brilliant.
To Andrew Viana's point, yes, no, it's true. People had different scripts depending on what they wanted people to know. So yes, David Prowse had a different script than,
and even James Earl Jones thought Vader was lying. He's lying. He has to be lying.
Right.
No way. But, turns out it wasn't. One of the great plot twists of all time.
I even like the way Luke gets confirmation. He asks,
is Darth Vader my father?
Vader my father? Your father, he is. And later on, he doesn't even need to be told who his sister is. It's like you see that growth. So that tells me he probably knew that Vader was his father. He already sensed it. He just needed the confirmation because he wasn't even believing himself, right?
And explain the connection he had with Leia when he was hanging at the bottom of the Cloud City. She was the one he was able to reach. I think he knew there was a special connection there.
Well, there could have been a special connection if they weren't brother and sister, if they'd have gone the way they were originally going. So either way.
Hey, I want to say something about that. The last concert I saw where John Williams was conducting, he was telling a story about, they did Princess Leia's theme.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, when I originally wrote this theme, I thought that, Luke Skywalker was going to get with Princess Leia down the road.
Yeah.
And I didn't know till the third movie that wasn't going to be the case. And I had to write a new piece of music for them to be brother and sister. And he kind of got a chuckle out of it. And Yeah, so yeah, I don't think George Lucas really intended for them to.
Nah, but at least, but like aside from the difference between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, they had that one guiding voice. George had the story, wrote the story. No matter what you think of those prequel films, which I still hold are, not it's a good trilogy. It's a better trilogy than the sequels. But the movies are kind of a little wobbly here and there.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, but what the sequel trilogy didn't have was that singular guiding voice, that story, the person who was in charge of the story, and that's where everything went to, Hades.
The fact is,
Mustafar.
Yeah, there you go. Going into the prequels, the fans that knew all the lore, all the interviews that George Lucas had in the fan club magazine and all that kind of stuff, we knew all the broad strokes for what the Clone Wars were all about. We knew where it was going. And especially after you find out, from Empire and Jedi, okay, well, we know that Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. So we know that story's going to be happening, right? Mm-hmm. We just didn't know what, Luke and Leia's mom's name was or what her role was, but we knew who Bail Organa was. We knew a lot of the other things. So you go and you see it and you're like, okay, yeah, I see the skeleton there. I see the broad strokes. But yeah, it was just, there was some, there were things that were missing there, that were, he didn't have the people there saying, nah, maybe this political stuff is a little dry. Maybe we pull back a little on this. Maybe we go, a little bit more focus on this. Maybe this scene doesn't need to be there, but let's put this before that scene, that kind of stuff. But by and large, it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, my product, so Revenge of the Sith was fabulous, I thought.
And for crying out loud, it gave us Duel of the Fates for crying out loud.
Yeah. But the first, music-wise, they're fantastic. But I still hold that a lot of those first two films of the prequels was like watching C-SPAN.
Kinda.
It just was like, oh God, come on, But
Ian, C-SPAN over here would be like watching the MPs in debating, business during a regular session. Just boring stuff.
So, Ian, if it wasn't for Star Wars, do you think you would be a soundtrack collector today?
Well, yeah, probably because around the same time, and John Barry, and I love the scores from those films. So I'd probably be a soundtrack geek to some extent. But I don't think as much as I am now because of Star Wars and because of John Williams. Because then, the year after Star Wars, there was Superman, which just sealed the deal for me with John Williams.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously Empire came in '80, and then Raiders and E.T. and the list goes on and on and on. It was just I was just bowled over by the whole John Williams thing. But it was John Williams that really started for me. And then kind of very early '80s, I discovered Jerry Goldsmith, and
yes,
that's my life, Jerry Goldsmith and John Williams. So
did you watch
just off
Lionheart? Oh, Ian,
I've never seen Lionheart.
Have you listened to the score?
I love the music, but I've never seen it.
Okay.
Oh, I love the score. I bought the two albums, volumes 1 and 2, when they first came out in '87 or '88.
La La Land just released a new CD.
Correct. Sarabande did. I ordered it on Friday and got it on Saturday.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, well, yeah, it was Viserion. That's right. I'm sorry.
Now you
So
say
many CPs, I get them confused. Yeah.
Lionheart. Which film is that?
It was an '80s sword and sorcerer movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that the one with Eric Stoltz?
I think so.
Because there's also one with Jean
Yeah,
Claude
so
Van Damme.
It's not the one with
Lionheart.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
people get the
Okay,
two
but yeah,
mixed up.
I know the one you're talking about because they both had the same thing. But yeah, I remember that. I saw that once a long time ago. I've never been a big Eric Stoltz fan. He always seems a little too.
Is anybody an Eric Stoltz fan?
I'm sure he is. I'm sure his mom is.
I'm not.
Well, I have the big joke. Well, Eric Stoltz is not quite punchable to me as Andrew McCarthy, because I have that thing with Andrew McCarthy where it's like sometimes I just want to, but for absolutely no reason, but just completely out of left field. But did John Williams do Lionheart, or who did Lionheart?
No, that was Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, Goldsmith. Because Goldsmith did the European version of Legend too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Because of course the first one I ever heard was the Tangerine Dream one, and it took a long time before I finally, because I got that special CD that has both versions on it, and it's amazing how music changes a film.
It's a great example. Have you seen? There is, I think it's on the Star Wars Special Edition Blu-ray. They've got footage of it was like rough cuts of Star Wars with classical scores thrown in, just like placeholder music. Completely changed. You're like, okay, I kind of see what he's going for, but knowing the real score, you're like, okay, yeah, no, that would not have worked.
And a lot of people don't realize that the iconic Imperial March didn't come out until Empire.
Right.
Imagine being able to I'm sure somebody's done it, but the Imperial March in the original, when Darth Vader enters anything.
I like what Williams did for the original Star Wars, though. I like that music. I think the Imperial March is a good progression theme-wise, but I wouldn't want to take that out of Star Wars.
Right.
New Hope. I want to keep New Hope music exactly as it is.
Yeah, I would never do it, but like some people like to play around with things.
Yeah,
that's true.
I just wonder if anybody's done it just to kind of see what it would be like.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, it feels like not having the march in the first movie and then having it introduced in the second movie. And I'm speaking just because of that difference, just because of that lack of that piece of music in the first movie. I feel like there's character progression. Like, we definitely see him become more controlled, more, I don't want to say subdued, but that that whole lawful evil kind of Darth Vader, the whole, well, I'll just say it this way and you'll know what I mean. Apology accepted, Captain Nita. As opposed to, Commander, tear the ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive. Very different character. Definitely.
Thanks for blowing out my headphones, by the way.
Sorry. Definitely some growth in that character. And I feel like there's that pomp and circumstance of the Imperial March that is appropriate to his new station as a Dark Lord in the second movie. Whereas he's not quite as respected in the first movie. Heck, I mean, he's even getting into squabbles with generals at the table in the first movie,
Oh, I still like how Leia busts him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, so you're the one holding Vader's leash.
Yeah.
I did notice that Michael Giacchino did use some of those Imperial motifs from the first film in Rogue One, if you listen carefully. When it came to
director Krenric's team.
in Rogue. I would have liked if they'd used those original motifs a bit more during the Star Wars film, but obviously the Imperial March took over as the main theme for the Empire. But I was glad to see them back in Rogue One, although very briefly.
Did you enjoy Rogue One, Ian?
I did, yes. Yeah,
I did too.
Me too.
As I said, I've enjoyed the three most recent Star Wars films. Don't kill me, but I thought Rogue One was very, very. It was Star Wars to me. It was what Star Wars is all about.
I felt like I was like 3 years old again.
Yeah. I mean, there was a distinct lack of humor in the film, but I think it called for that because of the storyline, and nobody lived when it came to the end. So I think the lack of humor was okay, but I thought Giacchino's score was excellent. I don't know what anybody else thought. He was brought in at a fairly last minute, I believe, to replace.
Alexander Desplat dropped out.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if it was scheduling.
Samuel Proctor is referencing the behind-the-scenes footage of David Prowse delivering the line that I was just referencing. Yeah, he doesn't sound nearly as intimidating as James Earl Jones. But a physical presence.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing. Sorry. I remember seeing you're talking about him being a physical presence. I just recently saw Circus of Evil, where he plays a strongman.
Oh yes, yes.
Or Circus of the Vampire Circus.
Circus. Yeah,
yeah. The Hammer film
with Lala Ward, right?
Lala Ward. Oh yes.
Oh yeah, right.
Lala Ward. But he was a beast.
Yes,
he was built.
He's if I'm not mistaken, he's the chap that trained Christopher Reeve and helped him bulk up for Superman.
Yep.
He did. There was a wonderful Netflix documentary on David Prowse, and time it got to Return of the Jedi, George Lucas was not happy with him at all, and he was getting sidelined for almost all the bits on screen. And
I've always
some other guy in the suit.
Yeah, and he actually was barred from even going to convention, at least any official conventions that were Star Wars based, and it was really just terrible, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it does speak to something that I often talk about, and that's you have to understand the politics of Hollywood and what goes on behind the scenes. Everybody thinks they know. People want to talk about, the Civil War going on at Lucasfilm and there's no Civil War. They're all this and they're all that. And it's like, you don't even understand how business works, let alone how Hollywood works. It's incredibly catty. It's knives out all the time. It's, Sun Tzu and, form your alliances and, smile while you brandish your knife behind your back. That's just the way it is. It's the way it is in any business.
Survivor.
Yeah. So, and the reason I bring that up is because David Prowse was very outspoken about things he didn't like, and he ticked off all the wrong people. And it's unfortunate because I feel that the people, in quotes, people in the suits are every bit as important to those roles as the people whose faces you see and the people whose voices you hear. Sometimes the body actor who's basically doing a pantomime is working so much harder to convey emotion and ideas through their physicality when you can't see their eyes and their face, right? Say what you want about Anthony Daniels, you can tell when it's not Anthony Daniels in that suit. You just can, you know. Actually, I think it always is Anthony Daniels in that suit. There's a very few scenes where he's got stand-ins and whatnot, but you can tell when it's not Peter Mayhew and the other guy took over. Nothing against him, but it doesn't feel like Chewbacca anymore.
But I will say this for Jonas Suotomo, if I'm pronouncing his name right.
No, I wouldn't know. Yeah, it's tough.
I follow him on Twitter. The man gets it. The man gets it.
Oh, he does.
He has the highest respect, and he has Peter's absolute blessing.
I did not mean to imply.
Oh, no. I know, but I always like to add that is like sometimes you get that guy who comes in who's just like doing a paycheck. Jonas, to the best of my knowledge, gets it.
You're absolutely right. And I'm glad you did bring it up because it does speak to exactly what I was saying. He understands exactly the thing that I was conveying, and he's doing his best to honor that, right? I'm just saying, imagine if I can tell when it's not, well, and let's face it, I mean, at least part of that is just the fact that you can see in the eyes. I mean, when you saw Peter Mayhew out of makeup, you could still look into his eyes and go, okay, I can see Chewbacca there, you know? Anyway, yeah, that's all I was saying about that.
You know, about the fight between Lucas and Darth Vader, life is too short. You know, I mean, who in the Star Wars community doesn't love Darth Vader? And to say, you know, you can't go to conventions that are sanctioned by Lucasfilm.
I would even argue that you're really hurting your brand too by allowing those petty things to. I mean, because it's absolutely true. Most of the fans feel the same way we do about, you know, Peter Mayhew.
Everyone loves Darth Vader.
Look what I said when I said something about Kenny Baker not being in the R2. Your first reaction, oh, that's too bad. Yeah. We care about those things, right? We care about those people in the tin can, you know, and the story about everybody breaking for lunch and Ken Baker being stuck in there for over an hour because he couldn't get out on his own, you know, and it's like that's a sacrifice he made so that we could have this movie we loved so much. That means something to real fans. You know,
and life is too short to get tied up in stupid ass shit.
Yeah.
Get over it, people. You know, focus on what really matters. You know, you like something I don't like. Okay, that's no big deal. You have an argument at work. You always have arguments at work. You have arguments with your spouse. That's life. You have to move forward.
Most businesses, however, when two factions are arguing, somebody up the chain usually steps in and says, enough, you two, or I'll get rid of both of you. Yeah. Because our business and making the money is more important than any of your little petty squabbles. I just feel like in Hollywood today, that's gone by the wayside, and it's like the children are running the nursery.
Yeah.
But I will say this about Dave Prowse. He was a very nice guy. He's one of the first celebrities I've really met when I first started going to conventions. I still remember it was Saturday morning. I go into have breakfast at the hotel restaurant, and I'm sitting there, and at the table next to me, I just see out of the corner of my eye someone sit down. I look over, and I couldn't take my eyes off of him. It was him. And he looked at me. He's like, "Good morning," and just kind of, you know. And I'm like,
that's wonderful.
And he could kind of tell that I was, you know, gobsmacked by seeing him. But
everything I've heard
very
is
nice
that
guy.
Everything I've heard about him, he loved his fans. He loved. He was very, very personable. Same was true of Peter Mayhew, by the way. As long as he hadn't been drinking, give him one too many drinks and. Okay, maybe it's time to move on.
I actually got to talk to Peter for an extended period because it was a convention. He'd been signing most of the day, and like his line was just every now and then someone would walk up, and he was just kind of sitting there on his own, didn't even have a handler. And I kind of like got that bravery up, and I went to him, and I'm like, I just want to say it was a real privilege to meet you, because I'd met him earlier to get my autograph.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, thank you." And I shook his hand.
Nice.
Massive hand.
Yes.
By the way.
Yes.
And I just started talking to him, and I was like, your hand must hurt sitting here writing your name over and over again. And he's like, it's not too bad. He's like, but there's sometimes I wish I had a little stamp with my autograph on. I could just stamp. And we just kind of joked about it for a couple minutes, and it was just really cool, and just the nicest guy.
Did any of you ever meet Anthony Daniels?
No, I never had that. No, I did. Yeah, I did meet him, actually.
What, Ian? You were breaking up a little bit.
Well, wasn't Peter Mayhew in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger? Didn't he play the Minotaur, the Minotaur? I know he didn't do a lot of film work, but
I think you might be right.
I think he was. Yeah.
I'll look that up. I'll check that out. Let me see here. I know Patrick Troughton was in it.
Oh, that's right.
While you're looking that up, Andrew brought up a point about Giancano. High praise for Giancano, Andrew. If you like Jurassic World, then you need to come on an episode with Boomer and I. I don't know Boomer's thoughts on it. I did not like Jurassic World, and I would love to discuss it. We can have a conversation about that, because I didn't care for it, and maybe you can change my mind. I'm always up for a conversation. So
he did play the Minotaur.
Very good. I see. I wonder if Birdman, you and Ian might have a different feeling on this, but I do tend to, if I don't care for a movie, sometimes you guys I know listen to soundtracks separately from the film, right? I mean, and you absorb it as a piece of standalone music.
Yeah.
I usually don't, unless I fall in love with the music through the film, you know? And sometimes in my mind, I'll listen to a score and I'll see the movie in my mind again, you know? So I gotta admit, I don't even remember the score to Jurassic World. I just don't, because I saw the movie. I remember a couple things about it, but ultimately, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really can't place the soundtrack either.
I just remember the girl trying to run in high heels, and that just kept pulling me out of it. He laughs at me.
with film music, my attraction to film music comes from watching the film initially. If I enjoy a film, or if I hear music in a film that I like, that'll be my into it. I don't generally think, oh, there's a score by so and so, I'm going to buy that one, I'm going to download that, listen to that, just because it's by a certain person. I like to know how it fits with the film, and if it works with the film, that's my into a score.
And do you have any a musical background training? Did you play an instrument or anything like that? No.
I played the recorder in school when I was about 8. That's it.
Yeah, me too. That was my introduction, and that was when they were no longer really teaching music in the grade schools. But my mother sent me to a parochial school, so I learned a great deal of tunes playing the recorder, learning the bass. I shouldn't use that term because that has a different inference in music. The standard scales, and then I'd do the recitals for Christmas and whatnot. And then when I got to when I got to 7th grade, I was old enough to possibly be in the band, and the band leader was introducing to he's doing demonstrations of the instruments, and he'd play a little tune on a clarinet, he'd play a little tune on a piccolo. He takes out the trombone. Bum 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 bum. That's what I'll be playing. Thank you, Mom. I want to play the trombone. So for 2 years in grade school, I played the trombone, and she bought the trombone for me. I didn't go into band in high school, but that was, so I do have some musical training, and yet I never really dug into it beyond that because, and I'll listen to people on YouTube talking about music theory and how tones and specific phrases of music just affect us on a very emotional level, and why we understand it, right? We feel that fanfare and it pumps up our heart, or it can bring us to tears too, the right mood, the right music. But I can't put into words why that is, right? But there's musicians that can say, oh, well, this is we associate this particular key with nostalgia, and this particular key has this effect. Okay, I'll take your word for it, because it obviously happens, it obviously works, I obviously feel it, but I can't communicate the why of it.
I think when it comes to music,
I can't either. I don't understand film.
I'm sorry, I didn't get any of that.
If it's no, I'm saying if the why is not important. If it affects you emotionally, then it's doing its job.
Exactly,
and that's the main thing. And if you, as you say, if you try starting to explain why it's affecting me, I just switch off, because I really don't understand all the technical speak when it comes to music.
Sure.
And to be brutally honest, I'm not that interested in understanding it that way. I just want to enjoy it. And when it comes to film music and film scores, I want it to, as Jerry Goldsmith was always saying that he feels music, or he writes music on an emotional level, not an intellectual level, because music is emotional. And people accused him of being manipulative in his scores, as they have, they say about John Williams, and he's saying, well, I can't think of any other way of writing music. It has to manipulate your emotions, which I agree with that.
I would think that any composer would feel that way. I mean, I think if you were to speak to Bach or Beethoven or any of the greats, they would say specifically that I am trying to communicate an emotion or a story or a feeling. What is music but a form of communication? We were talking earlier about clunky dialogue and editing. Sometimes just the way something is edited makes all the difference. All of these elements require a degree of sophistication. There's a distinct difference between the way someone uses, for example, dialogue. You can write good dialogue that pulls somebody along and manipulates the emotions, right? Or you could just have an exposition dump and bore the heck out of people. Could communicate the same information, but it's how you do it that matters. And music is absolutely the same thing. It communicates a feeling. I mean, there's a lot of YouTube channels that, and they're actually kind of funny to watch. They'll show you different scenes once, and then they'll show it to you again without the music. And you're like, that a previous scene scared the heck out of me. This scene is funny. Music is so important.
Music is the soul of a film.
Yeah, to a degree, I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. I remember watching. You can watch some film and it has very little music, incidental music, and it better be superbly written because I was talking about I like documentaries, and I like this group called Small Town Monsters, and they have a composer who does their music. His music just elevates all their projects because it gives you this, it like hits that sense of mystery and the unknown, and it's without it would be just so dry.
Look at the score for Alien. I mean, that music, I can't even, because I don't usually listen to it separately from the movie. I can't think of a phrase of music from it in my head right now. But when I watch that movie, it's there in the background, setting a mood for me. And if it weren't there, I'd notice it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really paying attention to it as I'm watching the movie.
Yeah, I love
a film and music. I was going to say it's another good example of a film and music. If you take the music out of Alien completely, it's a very flat film.
Yes.
And you put the dread of that music in, and it's a completely different experience.
Absolutely. And honestly, and this is kind of a cheap version of it. I'd say this is the dime store version of it. But so many movies today, the scare of them is these jump scares, and the jump scares don't work without the music. It's the sound effects, the sound of nails on a chalkboard, and a dun-dun-dun, that's what it is. And I mean, I don't even need the movie for that. The music alone would do it for me.
Yeah, I like it when the music and when I can feel it in my spinal cord. Is how I kind of describe it, when it just, it just gives you chills. It gives you that, or it gives you that moment of inspiration. You cannot hear the Superman theme and not want to put your fists on your hips and do that Superman.
Yes.
You don't hear the Indiana Jones music and not like suddenly go, with the bullwhip. It's just, and the Star Wars thing. You hear the Imperial March, and you just like, you feel like you could just, throttle somebody with your mind. It's just very powerful.
Yeah, Andrew says in this post here about most music now doesn't have an emotional pull, and you mentioned that Superman and Indiana Jones. When it gets to those stages in the film where Superman does something heroic, like he catches the helicopter, in the movie, and the theme kicks in, and that just you punch the air because it just puts a button on that moment. Indiana Jones doing something heroic, or getting out of some scrape, and then the indie theme kicks in. Again, it's another fist punching moment. You don't tend to get that much anymore, which is a shame.
I feel. And I think I know why that is. I feel that the music is suffering the same way the writing is, because there are all of these mandates that come down from the studios. I want you to do this, follow this formula, make it like this, do it like that other movie, just basically follow that. So all the music ends up sounding the same. The stories follow all the same tropes. You can predict the way the story is going to go, to the point that what the dialogue is going to be. You can say it before the actor on the screen does, because they're just rehashing the same stuff over and over again. The stuff that's great is the stuff we're talking about that cut new ground, where the composer was allowed to do what the composer is meant to do, and there is no equal.
Yeah, I mean, there is still plenty of great orchestral film music out there, if you're willing to search for it. But as a whole, that whole brand of scoring has gone away, as you say, because it's people that don't, executives or producers, they don't really understand what film music can do for a production, and they hear a score for another film and they say, "Oh, I want it to be like that," and then it ends up every other film has a score that sounds just like the film before it.
Now,
and
in
it's become all
fairness,
this minimalist.
oh, I'm sorry. There
No,
is
no, go on.
something to be said for, just because you hear an artist, perform and compose something, oh, I like that, they're great, get that person to score my movie, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to them, doing what John Williams does and being able to go, okay, I see what this story is about, so I know what the moods need to be, I know what I need to communicate, and then compose for that. They could just be a one-trick pony that just rehashes the same kind of, over and over and over again. It all sounds alike. But I suppose that's true with writers, and that's true with, anybody,
Well, one thing about John Williams, because Princess Leia asked this question last week, she was wondering why there aren't as many compositions on the same par as like John Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up the point, he writes with pen and paper. No one does that anymore. He composes at his piano. No one does that anymore. Now you compose on a computer with electronic equipment, and you can hammer out the entire score electronically. And speaking of composers, here's one right here. Welcome,
Yes.
Sound Engraver. And like Ian said, people hear like a Hans Zimmer score, and the producer comes in and is like, wow, did you listen to that Hans Zimmer score in that X movie that came out last week? I want it to sound like this. And then for the next 5 years, everyone's copying something that Hans Zimmer did 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And also, a full orchestra score costs more money than to do it electronically. And I think you missed something. And I'm not a composer, but when I write something, if I have to write something, I write it with pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write on a computer. I think if you're writing exclusively on a computer without the piano, I think you're missing out on something. Back me up here, Sound Engraver, if you can. If I'm just wrong, please tell me I'm just way off base here.
I think that's an apt analogy by comparing it to writing composition. If you are going to write with pen and paper, okay, let me put it back to you this way. What is the big difference if you write pen and paper or if you write using a word processor? What is the biggest difference between the two?
For me, it's more intimate, if that makes sense to anyone.
It does, and I'm going to explain the why of it. You don't have to be as careful with the word processor because it's so easy to go, no, I didn't like that last sentence, and then wipe it away and start over again. With pencil and paper, pen and paper, you have to think it through before you start putting it down on the paper. It's in your head first. You've spent some time. Yes, you've spent some time massaging it around, thinking it through, and then you lay it out. Because if you're going to start over again, you've got to throw that whole page away and start over again, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, it's kind of the same, but it's almost even worse for a composer, right? If you're going to compose in the old-fashioned way, pencil, paper, and a piano, you're getting melodies, you're thinking them through, you're not thinking through what the third piccolo is going to be doing. But if you're in the computer, you can go ahead and punch in the third piccolo and listen to it. You're jumping ahead of some steps there, Try to hear it all in your head first. Imagine the rough outline and then build off of that. And I think you end up with something much more refined. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody's artistic, ability is different. I mean, some people have to do sketches before they can start carving a statue, and other people just grab a chainsaw and make this incredible statue out of a big piece of wood. So everyone works differently, but I'm just saying I can kind of see that that element of the creation process.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it depending on everything, and I think for a musician writing a piano, that would probably make more sense. But for me, if I'm writing anything, I can type faster than I can write. And sometimes I find handwriting a bit frustrating. But that's just my personal view, because it's too slow. If I've got a lot to write, I guess I can get a bit tired after a while. If I'm typing away at a keyboard, as I say, it's a lot faster. Things can spill out a lot faster, and I can get it down a lot faster. But that's just me.
I'm somewhere in between you two because I still have to do the outline. I still have to think through. I basically have to have the whole story in my head before I start. But yes, then I usually do go to a typewriter or to a word processor because if I tried writing it out longhand, I might not be able to read it later. So
yeah,
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Hey, I wrote out my whole book. Nobody can read it. I have no idea what I wrote, but
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, when I went to get my COVID shot, you have to sign your signature on this form, and the nurse looked at me and she's like, "That's not your signature." I'm like, I'm not going to say what I thought, but I'm like, yeah, that's. Are you giving me sass about my signature? Really? Come on. But anyway.
Signature does not need to be cursive, people.
it needs to be a mark that isn't
it's
easily replicatable by anyone else. That's the key. I mean, you can't read my name, but you can definitely tell it's my signature, right?
Yes. Sound engraver, we have a new friend with us tonight, Mr. Ian from Edinburgh, Scotland. He is on a film score soundtrack group on Facebook. So, and Sound engraver lives in the States, and she's a violin player. She's a very good violin player.
And composer and music teacher.
And composer.
And a music, yeah, she is a multi-talented musical force.
And no, my signature is not scribbles. It's very Dr.
Stylized. Very stylized is how I like to say it. Interestingly, my signature uses elements from my father's signature and my mother's. You know, I have the P written the way my mother wrote hers, but the T the way my father wrote his. Just, I don't know. I don't know why. It's an affectation I picked up somewhere along the way because that's not how I was taught to write in school. But you know, I can definitely tell my signature, you know, whether it's mine or someone else writing.
When I write cursive, I always use the regular capital letters. If I'm using a capital, like I'll use a regular S. The only time I ever use the cursive S is in my signature because my last name begins with an S.
That's true.
That's the only time I use that weird squiggly thing.
I just had to get a pad and pen there to write my signature down because I had no idea what my signature was. It did start off as Ian Clark, and you could actually read it as Ian Clark. But now, I'm looking at it, I have no idea what it is. It still is basically Ian Clark, but it's just scribbles. It's just meaningless.
Yeah, you can read my first name, but you never know what my last name is from my signature. It's like an S line, and then maybe there's a T sometimes if I feel whimsical. But everything else is like straight.
I've gotten a lot of autographs. Like I've got Mark Hamill's autograph, and there's no way if you didn't know, if I hadn't actually gotten it from him, seen him write it, and it's on his picture, there's no way I'd know that was Mark Hamill.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think when you get to the stage though, when you're doing doing loads and loads and loads of signatures, you have to make it as easy and as simple as possible.
Absolutely.
Because I think Tim Russ from Voyager, he basically is T line R line.
Yeah.
And that's a signature.
Yeah.
I mean, mine would go fast. I mean, that's how I would do mine. But
what do y'all think about the Han Solo movie?
Never saw it.
I liked it. I liked it. It was a great, entertaining popcorn type of an adventure. Was it Star Wars? It's debatable, but it's more Star Wars than some of the sequel films were. I had a good time with it. I had no issue with it. I think a lot of the points that people were pointing to with rumors coming out were overblown. Like the whole, Orlando wants to, like, I really didn't get that. I mean, was there a little flirtation? But maybe, but it wasn't like this big subtexty.
That's
thing.
the problem with that we're kind of getting at with modern films. Now it's not about what's up on the screen. Now it's about all the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm very much death of the author. If it's not on the screen, if it's not in the book, I don't want to hear what you have to say about it. Okay, because you had your chance, and if you didn't get that element in there, you blew it. And there's a lot of virtue signaling going on and saying, well, I intended for this character to be this way and for this and the other. And it's like, well, then you should have put it in the movie because you didn't,
Yeah, it was a fun adventure film. Middle of the pack for me. Better than several other films, but
yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. Back to music. I thought John Powell did a fantastic job with the score for it. Obviously, utilizing John Williams themes, and John Williams wrote a new Han Solo theme for the film as well, which was after almost 40 years. It was about time Han Solo had a theme. But, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the film.
It was the first movie after Last Jedi, so I didn't see it, and I didn't see the last movie either.
I really think its poor performance was completely due to Last Jedi. The backlash from that film killed Solo, and it did not deserve the fate that it got.
Well,
or like I said to people who said, I'm not going to go see the film because I didn't like Last Jedi. That to me I just think that's kind of a dumb argument.
No. Let's be fair here. I mean, you have to understand that fans are invested and they have a right to feel the way they do. And when you do something, I mean, I would not go back to a church that was teaching a false doctrine.
I want to actually go back. I didn't actually mean how it came out. I will say, don't say Solo is a bad movie because Last Jedi was a bad movie.
Oh no! Oh yeah.
If you're not gonna, just say I didn't want to see it because the last film, I just don't want to give my money to Disney for, and that's fine. But don't say Solo is a terrible movie if you did not see it.
No, absolutely true. I would say, though, there is another confounding factor there. It's not only that it came after The Last Jedi, but it's also that because of its status as a prequel, I don't think most fans really felt the impetus to see it. It's like, do I need to see it? I know. We know he becomes Han Solo, and he, it doesn't really matter, So I think that contributed between the I don't want to support this and do I really need to see it? I think that those two things together kind of hurt it.
But you could say the same thing about the prequels. Oh, I already know.
It's very true.
He turns into Darth Vader, so why see it?
That's very true.
So that to me it would be the same thing. But no, truthfully, was Solo a necessary film? No, but they made it, so I didn't have a reason not to want to see it, so I saw it and I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did.
I thought the actor who played Han Solo did a really good job, and the actor who played Lando did a really good job. And I would like to see them in a movie together with a really, really super tight script. I would love that.
Oh, I think that would be great. I think that'd be awesome.
But Andrew brings up my big problem with the film. The music kind of took me out of the film because when you got the Imperial March playing as source music in the film, I'm like, wait, so this is like real world music in the Star Wars universe? I'm like, And then they took part of like the TIE fighter attack, and put it in the film. And I'm like, well, wait, because my mind is thinking to this, but my eyes are seeing that, and it's kind of throwing me off. I love the movie poster that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it one time. I don't go back to it.
Well, the visuals were cool. I like the
the visuals were cool.
I like seeing the pristine Millennium Falcon while it still had that little front shuttle.
Yeah,
we now know why the Falcon has that little weird that notch in the front.
But like Ian, like you saw, it was a good movie. It was an entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't buy everything there is about Star Wars. I don't read every book about Star Wars. I love the films, and I've just recently started watching the Mandalorian. Love films, and if one film wasn't to my taste or I didn't think it was that good, it wouldn't affect my wanting to see the new film that came out. I'm a Star Wars fan. If there's a new Star Wars film, I'll want to see it. I'm not going to let anything in the past affect what I see in the future. I'll always give a new film the chance that it deserves.
Bless you.
To see it. And then if I don't like that one, I'll wait for the next one.
Yep. That's
my way of thinking.
That's how I think about it too. I was not going to not go see Rise of Skywalker because of what Last Jedi did. I had to see it for myself, for better or worse. It's almost like a marriage, married to Star Wars, and you go with the flow. But the one thing about that, you say you've just started watching Mandalorian, Ian?
Well, I just started. I hadn't seen the first season, and then the second season came out, and I don't know why. It didn't take my fancy, and then a mate of mine said, "Look, you need to watch The Mandalorian. I know you love Star Wars."
Yeah.
I said, well, I said I will watch it at some point, and I thought, well, I've got to watch it now because he's watched it and he's going to start talking about it, and I don't want spoilers.
Again, say avoid spoilers at all cost.
Absolutely. So,
how do you do that?
Literally.
Well, at this point, it's almost impossible.
It's very harsh. But in the past 3 weeks, I've watched both of them now, and
both
I'm
seasons.
looking back and I think, what? Yeah, both seasons.
Oh, so you've seen them then? Okay.
Yeah, and I was thinking, why didn't I watch this in the first place? I thought it was stupendous.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing we could say about it that would be like a spoiler for you at this point.
No.
Okay, so
I'm right up to date.
At the beginning of the show, I was talking about having the whole what do you call it, the sail barge and the Kickstarter for HasLab and everything. Well, this past year they did a HasLab pre-order for the Razor Crest, the ship that the Mandalorian is in. So I went ahead and I got in on that, right? And I was like, okay, unlike the sail barge, I'm getting in from the ground floor. I'm gonna spend my $300 or whatever it was. That very week after the Kickstart ended and they'd hit their mark and it was closed, the show blew up the ship. I'm like, you sons of banthas.
The Death Star got blown up, but you have a Death Star, do you not, Troy?
Yes, I do.
I
have the big Kenner one. I never got the Palatoy one.
Sail barge got blown up, so it's okay.
That's right. I guess they're only going to ever put out ships that get blowed up.
Yeah.
That's true. And the Death Star got blown. Okay, good point. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Razorcraft, beautiful ship. And when someone wrote there that they think Mandalorian saved Star Wars, I really think it's done a lot to get back a lot of those fans that were disenchanted with the sequels, because they gave Mandalorian a chance and Mandalorian paid off. And I know a lot of people are, they're going to screw it up. They're going to do this. Oh, Dave Filoni is this, and Kathleen Kennedy will stick in her evil green fingers or something. But you know what? Those 2 seasons of Mandalorian are fantastic. And no matter what happens after, I've got those 2 seasons.
If Star Wars is to be saved, that's the avenue it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
I can't believe the scale of those 2 seasons as well. It is like 2 kind of 8-hour films. It's stupendous.
Ian, have you seen the behind the scenes of how they filmed The Mandalorian?
I've watched the first few hours of them, and it just blows my mind the technology they're working with those ultra high def LED screens.
Right? I
had no idea.
That is this is what you've come to expect of Lucasfilm. The original Star Wars introduced special effects unlike anything we'd ever seen. And Industrial Lights and Magic, I mean, between Star Wars and the whole Star Wars trilogy, and then the flying effects for Superman in the motion picture and Superman 2, they were cutting edge for their time, and now it's like they're doing it again. They're taking the concept of the rear projection, backdrop, and they've brought it into the 21st century, and now you can have literally in-camera effects that don't have to be filmed in front of a green screen in front of nothing and then mocked up later on. It's just absolutely amazing. And especially nowadays when they're starting to talk about decentralizing of productions and how are we going to do this. I think this is the way films are going to be done going forward.
This is the way.
I think so.
This is the way. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when you watch the series for the first time or the first season, you think, oh, they've been all around the world. They've gone to Morocco, Jordan, filming on location, and then you see those making of documentaries, and it's all filmed in that studio. It's just
exactly
beyond me.
And some of those scenes where I thought I knew where they were filming. I'm like, I think that's got to be. And then no, they may have sampled some terrain from there. But you know what? There's also there's another value to that, and it goes beyond just the keeping costs down and the realism and all that sort of thing. You don't have to worry about things like weather, lighting, time of day, none of those things. You can have noon all day long if you want, in the middle of the night if you need to do a pickup scene or something like that. If you have your Lars homestead, okay, and it's been destroyed by a sandstorm or something, or there's a civil war in the country you want to film in, it doesn't matter. Now you just reconstruct these things in the studio, and you have those sets forever. And then you can destroy them and rebuild them, and you can do sequels and prequels however you want to. Hello, Matthew Flynn.
Yeah. Hi, Matthew.
Ian, did you enjoy the music for The Mandalorian?
It worked well with the show. I'm not a huge fan of it. I haven't rushed out to buy the soundtracks for it. So, but it works fine with the show. But it doesn't stand out hugely to me. But again, there's a lot of people that do like the music. But it works fine for the show. But it don't really have a lot to say about it, to tell you the truth. It's
definitely got that cowboy western kind of feel to it.
I love the music. I love the music to it.
Yeah, I mean, it works for the show, but it's not something I'll probably listen to apart from the show.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it created its own thing. It didn't need to be derivative of the Williams scores, and it kind of created.
I wouldn't have
its own
wanted
thing.
it to be derivative of Williams either.
Right. Exactly.
It has to be its own thing. It has to be different. So.
I remember,
But the final episode of season 2,
Mhm.
when they brought in that, oh my! I mean, I was like a lot of people. I had tears in my eyes because I felt like it's like, you know, you're a dog that's been kicked a few times, but suddenly like someone's sitting there petting you. I know it's a weird analogy, but that's what it
Okay.
felt like. I was like, I'm so happy right now.
Let me ask this question. Which do you think moved you to tears more? Seeing Luke Skywalker or Grogu trying to see under his helmet?
Oh, please, Grogu.
Right? That was
Grogu
some
has
good writing.
Grogu plucks those heartstrings like nothing else.
Yup.
But it's two different kinds of feelings.
True.
You know, it's that oh kind of feeling, but in Luke it's like yes, you know, it's
Yeah.
like oh thank you. It was I mean it was orgasmic. That's as good as I mean.
I
It
don't
was that
think you
kind
can.
of.
I haven't heard enough people say this. I've heard some people mention this, but you can't neglect the fact that there was definitely this feel that this was a love letter from Favreau to the fans.
Mhm.
That's how I took it. It's like, yes, somebody there gets it, you know?
And now, of course, everybody wants to go. Well, Kylo's going to kill Grogu. It's like not in my head. And until we see it, it don't happen. He's off in the universe doing good. But they always want to try to like bring you down like that. It's like, we know Kylo killed Grogu. It's like, be quiet, you know. Haters
Samuel
gotta
Proctor
hate.
brought up a point about distancing yourself from Williams' music. You kind of lose the soul of Star Wars. I would say yes, I agree with you, and now I'm going to like contradict myself here. I did not watch The Mandalorian. I've seen clips of it on YouTube. But from what I've seen, I think the music works within the context of the show.
Let me put it a different way. Would you want to hear elements of John Williams' Superman in a Batman movie?
No. And you know what? We heard that in the Justice League. I'm just going to leave that there, and we'll go back to talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, there needs to be, yes, it is taking place in the same universe. It's a very different narrative with very different characters, very different mood, very different feel. All of that means different themes and different music.
Yeah,
So,
how it gives itself, the music has a soul of its own for Mandalorian, but it also feeds into the other aspects of the Star Wars universe within the Mandalorian. Kind of compensates for it. So to me it still feels like Star Wars, but it's different. It's not the Skywalker saga.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Al. Andrew, if you're still here, hit me up about the Jurassic Park rewatch. Yeah. We should do that. So hit me up about that. I'm flexible on time because
Jurassic Park or Jurassic
5 a.m.
World?
for you.
Yeah, Jurassic World.
Park
yeah,
or
Jurassic World. Well,
okay.
We can work something out on time. I'm flexible. I'm sorry, Al. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was done. I was going to say, but yeah, it's, like I said, you know, John Williams is the soul of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Wars, like you said, Rogue One has, although they could create little elements here and there, you do hear little bits and fobs, fobs, even a good word or not, but there are elements, there are whispers of that type of music.
Yeah.
But it keeps itself wholly its own entity.
What I do like is, and it also has to do with, I almost feel like it's a completely different medium, whereas Star Wars is these big epic cinematic pieces. Mandalorian is very much like that spaghetti Western in a serialized kind of way. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that Ludwig, I forget his last name, and I don't think I could pronounce it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Goranson
starts
or
with a
something
G.
like that.
Goro Goranson.
Goranson, is that it? He I don't know anything about him. I don't know his background. I get the impression that he's not probably real into American Westerns, but I don't know. But he at least keys into that flavor and that idea, right? And I don't know. It's just, and in a lot of ways, it's just a fun score too. I just, you know, I don't know. I just like it.
It has a nice. I don't want to just. It just has that nice little twang.
Yeah,
but it's still very heroic.
I think if they used all Williams themes for the show, they would just feel crowbarred in there for the sake of having John Williams themes in there. Whereas Ludwig Göransson, that's his name, it's something all new which fits the show, and to me that's just right.
We got Princess Leia in the house now, everyone.
Hi, Princess. How you doing?
Hey, Sullivan.
Hi, Princess Leia.
Your Majesty.
Hello, Chewy Al. Chewy.
Albaca. Albaca.
Albaca? Oh,
yep.
Okay, that's creative. That's different. How are you? I came in a little late, so I don't know how long you've been on. I was in another stream, but I got your invitation, Fairman, so I thought I'd stop by for a bit. So I don't know. Are you about at the end, or I won't hold you?
We're just talking. So.
Oh, okay.
I got 48% left on my battery, so until that time, if everyone gets bored, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Troy.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't recognize your icon.
Yeah, I changed the icon to go with the topic. So that's Rex from the Rebels series. He's one of the clone troopers. So I guess I'm T-Rex.
Okay. That's creative. So just talking randomly, or I know Daniel, in your invitation, it was talking about the score for the Star Wars films.
Yeah, we've discussed that some. We've talked action figures. We were currently talking The Mandalorian. We talked about Solo, Rogue One, and we have a new guest tonight. We have Mr. Ian from Scotland. He was in the chat last week.
Hello, Mr. Ian. How are you?
Hi there. I was the extra in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh yes, I remember you. Okay, welcome back. Well, for me, nice to see you again. Well, for me, you've covered a myriad of topics. Well, I guess for me, when I look back at I'm a big fan of the original films, and the original films are really what brought me into being a fan in the first place. And like I often tell my nephews, I bore them to death with this story every time we watch the Star Wars movies, but I still remember seeing Star Wars back in '77 when I was a child. And that whole experience, I still remember very vividly. I remember, I really didn't know much about it going into it. I see it advertised on television, but really didn't know what was going on. And I remember the theater being very crowded. Hello, Melissa. And I remember the theater being very crowded, lots of people, more people than I was used to because I was young. And so my mom was sort of strict on what movies we could see. She felt if it wasn't for kids, we weren't allowed to see it. It had to be strictly for kids. So mostly for my age, it was like Disney re-releases and so forth. I remember before like Star Wars, I would see a re-releasement of Cinderella, and that's really something too. Seeing Cinderella on the big screen. But this one, I remember a lot more people than I was used to. And it's just crowded. I said, why is it so crowded here? Woo, there's lots of people. This first movie I went to was so crowded. And I remember looking at a poster or pictures of the cast. I remember it being Leia with Vader, Han and Chewie, and it was Luke with the droids. And the first thing I said was, well, gee, I wonder who these people are. I've never seen them before. I don't recognize them. and then going to the theater like everybody else, and everything changed when the lights went down and that score, John Williams score sounded, and those big words flashed across the screen. And that just changed my life forever, because I remember coming out of it and I couldn't stop talking about it. I could not stop talking about it. I was so blown away by what I saw. And then 4 years later, for Empire Strikes Back, just as excited. This time, all of my family came with me. I have this ability to get everybody. It's like when we talked about Indiana Jones, the Raiders. My mother didn't come with me to Raiders, but Raiders. She came with us to see Raiders of the Lost, to Temple of Doom. So that was her first indie film. And Empire was pretty much the same thing. I tell them I remember the theater that I went to. The theater I went to is no longer around, but I do remember, it being at night. And once again, I made sure I went the opening weekend. It was crowded, but I knew what I was in for, because now I knew who those characters were. Yeah. So Empire, I was really, and it was that summer, and I was really excited about that. And one story I'll tell you is that I remember, after I had seen the movie already, but when I went to Georgia to see, my grandmother and grandfather and aunt. And I think some of my nieces and cousins were going out, and I said, well, are they going to the movies? And they said, oh, I think they went to the roller rink or the roller skating rink, which is a big thing, back then. And it was fun, but I never was a good skater. So I really didn't want to go. And the aunt really wanted to take me somewhere. And I said, well, hey, Empire Strikes Back is playing here. You can see Empire Strikes Back. And then my mom was like, again? You want to see again? Don't you want to go roller skating? I said, no, I want to go and see The Empire Strikes Back again. But you already saw it. I said, well, I want to see it twice. It's that good of a movie. I have no interest. I've been a geek all my life, and I think I was the only one in my family that had the geekum in me, so they didn't get it. So my mom was like, don't you want to go roller skating? I said, no, I can sit in the theater and watch The Empire Strikes Back again. Is that good of a film? And I think at the time I was the only one in my family that really, really was a big fan. So the Star Wars has just been my introduction to geekdom, and it's just been the story of my life. Luke Skywalker has always been my ultimate hero, that even to this day that I still love. And just like last week we talked about Williams' score for Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think John Williams' score for Star Wars is just this masterpiece. And just hearing it and seeing it again just brings up just great times at the box office. And then when Jedi came out, I really was ready for that one. But by this time, and I think for this one, my whole family finally came with me to see Return of the Jedi, because this time they knew about it now. And I remember you had to get your tickets early because tickets were already selling out. And I went that day, and I begged my dad, can I get out of school just a little bit early? So I made sure that we catch the showing that we're in, because it was so crowded, of course. And a little sad it was the last one, but was really ready for it. I wasn't disappointed. It went beyond my expectations. And the reason I stay on Jedi is because I think Jedi kind of doesn't get the same love as Empire. Everybody thinks Empire is the greatest, and I'm not taking anything away from Empire. I love it. But I think Return of the Jedi has to be my absolute favorite, because I loved seeing the maturation of Luke Skywalker and the story between him and Darth Vader, who we now know as Anakin Skywalker. But the idea of Luke going to bring his goal to bring his father around back to the good side, and seeing that there was still good in his father when everybody else said, no, you should kill this man and blow him away. He's no good. And I love the beginning of Return of the Jedi when Luke comes in to Jabba's palace fully Jedi. I love that moment. I was just during that moment when now he's in his Jedi cloak, he's got his Jedi powers, and even the way he talks now, he's matured. He's come full circle from his training in The Empire Strikes Back. And I love that whole moment when he goes back to rescue Han and he uses powers. And then when he confronts Vader, his father. And I love that moment. I love that whole scene. I think I think it's one of the most iconic scenes in the saga of Star Wars. I really do, where the Emperor tries to tempt him into the dark side, but mostly when he confronts his father, and then he tells the Emperor that you're not going to turn me to the dark side, but I'm here to bring him back around. And that line when they're talking in Jedi, where Anakin or Vader, if whatever you want to call him at this moment, tells him that it was too late for him. That the Emperor is Luke's as master now, and then Luke looks at him and tells him, the line that then my father is truly dead. And I'm like, whoa, wow, that's got a sting. Not in a sense of him being mean, but just the emotional impact on Anakin. Seeing that he was starting to get conflicted. So I don't care what. And then and how last Rise of Skywalker tries to retcon that, which I have not seen. I refuse to see, because that moment is still, I don't care what they do. That's always going to be a great moment for me. That's always just going to be a great moment. So Star Wars has like always been the movie that just really started it all for me. As far as I've always liked science fiction. I was always a sci-fi fan. I read lots of sci-fi books, Isaac Asimov, stories like that. I love to read. But this one is just so iconic. And then guys, you don't know how thrilled I was in was it 97 or 95 when they were re-released, when Lucas re-released them. I was actually
special editions.
Oh yeah.
The special editions. And I was coming out of another movie. I think I went to see The Hunt for Red October, and I was coming out of the movie, and there was a big sign in the theater saying "coming soon." And I said, "What?" And I looked, I said, I didn't know anything about it, so I saw the poster, and I had to find out. I said, they're re-releasing the original Star Wars movies. Yeah. I got excited all over again, and I thought it was a great time to introduce it to my nephews. My nephew was born by then, and he asked me where was he going, and I told him that I'm going to teach. It's time for you to learn the ways of the Force, because you're my yes. That's what I told my nephew. I said, you are now the age I was when I saw these for the first time. So you're old enough now to learn the ways of the Force, and I'm going to tell you this story about Luke Skywalker, and you're going to come see this on the big screen. He had no idea what I was dragging him to, but I told him just that. I said, it's time for you to learn this. And now he fell in love with it, and this is like in the 90s. So this has been like my calling. I got Star Wars memorabilia, and when I was a kid, I remember never missing a trip to McDonald's or Burger King, because one of them had glasses based on the films, and I wanted every character, particularly Luke. So I eat so many Happy Meals when I was a kid, because I kept telling my mother I've got to go and get those glasses that's based on films, I think, for Empire and Return of the Jedi. So they've been
both sets, yeah.
Oh, you're a lucky man, Troy. Lucky man.
I've actually had to replace a couple over the years.
I would imagine so. Did you have you the first that you bought? Did you had to buy some Happy Meals to get it like I did, or
it wasn't strictly necessary. You would go in and you could get them as long as you're getting a drink. You could pay an additional price to get the glass, but the expectation is you're not just going in for a drink, you're going in and getting a meal. So most kids, did get the kids meals. But my mother and I would go. I think it was. I want to say it was like every Friday or whatever, because they came out like a different one each week.
Right.
And I think Friday was the day you'd go, and we'd go hit the Burger King or McDonald's. I don't remember which one it was, and say, okay, do you have, the new glass? No, they still had the last one. Okay, we'll either be back or we're going to go to the one down the street, and we'd drive around. Come to think of it, my mother was kind of an enabler too. I've been kind of blessed by the women in my life, but yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, Leia.
Yeah, yeah. Then you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, my mother always wondered why you keep eating at Burger King, McDonald's. Why do you want to keep going there
I
until they
don't even
start to
like
catch
these
on?
cheeseburgers.
Yeah. She said, "Why do you want to keep going there?" And I was like, "You." And I hoped that a new glass would be there, but I was like, "You." I'm like, "Oh, we have the one for last week." I'm like, "Oh, I already have that one. That's
Yeah.
okay. I already have that one. That's all right." Or if I figured if I can't get anyone, at least give me one with Luke Skywalker on the cover, or Leia, or any of those characters, because those were my favorites. I really didn't want Darth or Vader or anything like that. Not that I can like them, but Luke was more of my favorites. So
So
yeah.
let me ask you this, Leia. You mentioned at the beginning you were talking about the Disney films, and
Hmm.
specifically you mentioned a Disney princess. I don't remember if it was Cinderella.
Cinderella, yeah.
And Leia was definitely a different kind of princess. How did you respond to that dichotomy there?
I liked her. I
Yeah.
liked her. Yeah, I did. I thought she was refreshing because in a way she was the kind of princess that I wanted to see on screen up until
Mhm.
that point, and going back to the first movie, because as I explained to you, yes, before Star Wars, it was mostly Disney films I went to see because my mom at that
Right.
age felt kids only should see kids movies. So when I saw the picture of her with Vader, I didn't know who she was. I said, "Well,
Mhm.
I don't know who this is. Who is this person going to be?" But I liked her a lot, especially in the first film, because she's the first person we really meet in the first Star Wars picture.
True. That's
She's the
true.
she's the
Mhm.
first one that we meet. Her and Vader are the first ones, and just by the way she talked, I knew that she was different
Yep.
from what you've seen in maybe older pictures, or even what you saw in the Disney cartoons. That this is not, a fairy tale princess. This is someone that's totally different.
She kind
But
of turns the whole trope of rescue the princess on its head. Yeah, she
yeah,
does get rescued, but she's part of that rescue.
It's like, give me the blaster.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Into the
Yeah.
garbage chute,
So,
flyboy.
my boy, yeah. Yeah. I've always loved that line. Of course, the famous, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" So
So
she,
stay here and rot.
yeah. Oh, great. I don't know if Luke would say that, but I'm just thinking that sounds like something more Han would say, because
Yeah.
Han does the banter. You could already see in it because she says,
Absolutely, your worshipfulness.
yeah, she says, "This is some rescue." And he tells her, "Maybe you like it better back in yourself." Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. And you could tell right there, and I love that too. I'm like, well, Han's not Prince Charming, so
No,
so
that is true.
mm-mm. Han is not Prince Charming. He was Han, and I liked that she was like that. I was waiting for a character like that. She was her own person, but it did not take away from the masculinity of the characters. She was just her own woman. I actually liked how she stood up to Vader at the beginning when they first meet, and she says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know your mission. I'm on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about." And so her guts was right there, but she's in distress as Samuel Proctor. That is a quote from Carrie Fisher. So Carrie Fisher
Yeah.
understood her. And
Mhm.
then Lucas, I love the story how he cast her, because it's her, he cast her kind of through her personality. She said they cast a type, and Lucas said Carrie was always kind of feisty woman, and so he used that and told her to use that and put it in that character. And I really became a fan of hers afterwards. I mean, it really was a film where she really was centerpiece, and she didn't have to. It's very interesting because Leia really doesn't throw any punches in any of these too many punches in any of these films. So that shows you that she didn't always need her fists to show her strength. There were other ways that showed what a leader that she was. I find that that's another thing that's interesting. She didn't have to punch guys, because we know Carrie Fisher's a short little thing, was a short little thing, but she didn't have to throw a punch to prove her strength. there were other ways that she showed it that I really liked. And of course, you gotta love the banter between her and Han. And what I liked
Mhm,
about it
mhm.
was the dialogue I actually liked because I liked the way they spoke. I liked the way that they spoke to me like all of us. Like they talk like they were people, because some critics criticize Star Wars where the dialogue in the script is trash. I said not to, maybe because I was a kid, but I didn't. I like the fact that she wasn't talking like she was some queen of England. And I
Mhm.
like that Han had his banter. I think that was really made him appealing, you know. Han Solo's like my first screen crush. Are you kidding? In the scene in the cantina where Greedo comes to shoot him, and then he shoots Greedo, and he just gets up all cool and smooth, and then
Han
throws
shot
the gun.
first.
Yep.
Yeah,
Han shot only.
first, last, I don't care. It was still cool. So I'm okay. I'm okay with it. It was still cool. I don't care. And says sorry about the mess. And I thought, wow, that guy is cool. I like that. That is really neat. And relating to Luke and his journey, you know, because I could relate to Luke Skywalker as well. So I like the way they talk. That they're talking. They're being honest and sincere. And I think Mark Hamill said that when he first got the script in an interview that he wanted to. He said nobody talks like this, so I'll just play it sincerely.
Yeah.
And I love it. Worked. It worked. But she has always been, always forever. I don't think, even to this day, of course, we're bombarded with many different heroines, or what Kathleen Kennedy considered to be a heroine, but I don't think anyone has really lived up to Leia in all three of the movies. No one's ever lived up to her and what her character to me, you know, and what her character is like. If you asked me today, I said, oh, Princess Leia still ranks pretty high. That year in the 70s, really, the heroines of that decade, Leia, Linda Carter on TV as Wonder Woman,
Mm.
and Margot Kidder in Superman. Those heroines I really was pulled to.
But I thought we didn't have strong heroines until recently because of all the Force stuff.
You know, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane and Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, I just feel like cut from the same cloth, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
I
you're right.
mean, definitely the what was that quote by Carrie Fisher? Definitely a damsel, but you know, also somebody that, you know, wasn't, you know, wasn't quite helpless, right?
Mhm.
She
Right.
needed to be rescued, but she could definitely contribute to her own rescuing.
I agree with you 100%, and it's very interesting. That was around the 70s, and you had the feminist movement. I remember it as a kid because they would
Real second wave feminism.
second aspect, but it was different back then because, like you said, for Lois Lane and Leia, you're right, they were cut from the same cloth, you could say, because in a way Lois was a distress, but she could still save herself if she could. It's when she really got into a situation where it just was seemingly impossible. Then you had Superman to come in, but she still very much was still her own woman because I don't care what anybody says. I'll confess something. You know, Romeo and Juliet has their balcony scene, and Superman and Lois have their balcony scene. And I love
Mhm.
when Lois, this interview scene where Lois interviews him. Know that dialogue from head to toe. I really like that scene. We see their personalities because she's still being her, but you can see how she's like mush when she sees Superman. With Clark Kent,
Mhm.
it's a different way, but Superman, you could just really see how she's flustered. And I said, that's the way I would react. I would react the same way she was reacting. You know, somebody told me that I could sit and speak to the mighty Thor. I probably would react pretty much the same way and ask the same questions. And that's like what you said. Now, with Linda Carter, it's a different story because Linda Carter was playing a comic book icon, and so even the way Linda Carter, when she brought Wonder Woman to life, that was a big deal. Everybody talks about the movie, but on television, Linda Carter was a big deal because she was bringing this cartoon character to life, and I knew that Diana Prince is a totally different character because she's an Amazon, but she's also a female superhero. So she's not always in distress, because we know when she becomes Wonder Woman, she's going to get out of it. But still, Linda Carter understood all the facets that made Wonder Woman who she was. It wasn't just the physical strength; it was also the kindness and the empathy that she had for mankind that made her who she was herself. So, like, those were like my childhood. Those are like my icons, and they around today. And like you say, Al, to those who say they don't have any female icons, I just think they ignore history. Either they ignore history, or I'm sorry you just weren't born when those characters came out. But hey, you can't. It's really blasphemy to say that they didn't.
Someone needs to send them some DVDs.
Yeah. Or if they choose to look at it, I don't know. Either they want to look at it, either they want to deny it themselves, or maybe there's just some self-esteem in their own life that just is not making them happy. But even with Kathleen Kennedy, and what I think what she has done to the franchise is sort of just like slander and blasphemy. Character slander is what I like to call it. The characterization slander, because there's no such thing as the strong women didn't exist, because Leia is a huge part of Star Wars, at least to me, a huge part, and nobody's lived up to it.
Did you have a Princess Leia action figure as a child?
I did have one. I didn't have that many, but I did have. I did have one. I had one. I had Leia. I had Han. I had Luke, and I had this one set where I know I had some Princess Leia paper dolls. I had that, and I had some pajamas with Princess Leia's picture on it, and I had a lot of different memorabilia. I had a lot of different stuff with Leia on it. I can't remember everything because some things were given to me as gifts, but I had a few, mostly from the first Star Wars.
I didn't really know any girls growing up that really into Star Wars. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure what they were into, but it wasn't Star Wars or Transformers or G.I. Joe.
Or you.
Or me. Thank you. Al. How do I block you?
Oh, ouch.
It was a softball over the plate. I had to take a swing.
That was a T-ball. That was a T-ball, my friend.
Yeah, no, it was just sitting there. It had to be hit.
Oh, well,
Al, I got something to show you, Al. I'll be back in 1 second. Pardon me, everyone.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of friends who were into Star Wars like me. It was kind of lonely, you could say, because there really wasn't anyone to talk to. It really wasn't. They just weren't into it.
None of my friends were into it like I was, and I was crazy about it. But everybody saw it's like, yeah, that was fun, that was really cool, and now the next thing's going on. Me, I lived and ate, breathed it for for a long time.
I lived it throughout my whole childhood.
I still do. I still do, actually.
Oh, I still do. I enjoy it to this day. But my
oh, Grogu.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was Baby Yoda.
It's a giant pillow. I bought this for you. I haven't mailed it yet.
Oh, he's so sweet.
He's big. He's really big.
Yeah,
I can't get him in frame. He's so big.
I can see.
So, happy Star Wars Day, my friend.
Grogu angry.
I guess once you get moved, I'll ship it to you, because you probably one less thing to move is one less thing to move. So.
Thank you. Yes. That's awesome. He's so cute.
It's a giant pillow, and you
I
you can
love.
sleep with them or sleep
I
on them
love.
or put your whatever you want to do. It's your business. So
I will. Hey, I'll cuddle him, and as long as he don't speak, he will be okay.
he's so big. I can't get him in frame. He's that big.
My
I
God,
believe you. He looks huge.
that
I
is-
believe
It
you.
fills up like the top portion of a grocery cart. I got him at Sam's.
oh, that's cool.
I showed it
Wow.
to I showed it to Professor Geek, and he's like, "That better not be for me." And I'm like, "Calm down. It's not for you."
I will put. I'll post like a Mandalorian meme or something, and he will like immediately strike it right off his page because I had the one where it had "May the Fourth be with you," "Revenge of the Fifth," but then it had Mando going, "This is the May." And which I just thought was perfect. I was like, "Oh, it's so good." I was like, "I know you don't like it, but please leave it alone. It's cute."
That is adorable. That is cute. That is
That was
absolutely
so cool.
adorable.
Thank
Look
you,
at
thank you, thank you.
Thank you for all your thumbnails for the shows. I appreciate them.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime you need one, I'm just so used to doing them. It doesn't take me long to do them, so I kind of have fun trying to be creative with them. Although I get into a style, and now I'm trying to standardize. I'm still working on one. I'm still working on mine, trying to standardize it. I've changed my logo, if anybody's noticed. I don't have the clapperboard.
But yeah, I was saying, yeah, it was I didn't have too many friends who were Star Wars fans. They just weren't into it like I was.
Mhm.
They had seen the pictures, but they were like, "Oh yeah, but man, some of them hated to see me coming because I would say, well, okay, now in this scene, this is supposed to happen, and in this scene here, and in Empire, no, Luke is supposed to be like that because he's going through these changes right now." And everybody was like, "What? How could you? How many times have you seen these films?" Like that scene they wanted to take me roller skating. I had no interest in going to the skating rink. I wanted to. Empire Strikes Back was playing in a theater. This was in Atlanta, down the street, and I said, "Well, you can just while you guys are at the skating rink, I can go to the theater and just watch the Empire Strikes Back." And I'm like, "Oh no, let's go to this rink." And I just said because I couldn't skate, I just was terrible at it, and so I didn't have a group to talk about it with because it was far and few. Now there was when I got to school for Jedi. There were a couple of people that did love it as much as I did, but it was very small group. It's a very small group of fans that, even to this day, I often wonder, you can tell who are the true fans, who are the posers, and then who are the people that are just riding the train. Because
Well, I would say
this morning,
I was so into it, I would go through newspapers and magazines, cutting out articles, or like when they had now playing like if it had any representation of the poster, I would snip it out, and I have this entire scrapbook filled with a lot of like all these old newspaper clippings and things.
I do too. In fact, my nephew, I had him in a box, and my nephew found them one day. My nephew found them and looked through them one day, and saw all the clippings I had, especially one of the picture, the poster for The Empire Strikes Back, and how excited I told him how excited I was because back in those days you had to look at the newspaper to get the show times for a theater, not like now where you can call them on the net. And I told him, you don't know any idea how much I jumped when I opened up the newspaper and the gigantic movie poster for Empire Strikes Back was there. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. All the characters will be back, and helping my dad find a theater and a showtime that we could go to. But I think we went to an 8 o'clock show because everything was sold out before 8 o'clock. We were trying to go to something earlier, but we couldn't because we could only catch the 8 o'clock show. I do remember that. And still, because he wanted to catch something earlier. And I said, because 8 o'clock means we're probably going to get out to 10 or 11 o'clock. And I said, that's okay. That's all right. I want to see that one. But
I
everything.
remember I remember going to see Empire for the first time, and we go to the theaters, a whole bunch of people there. It was for the first show on the first day that the theater had it, and they had come out. It's like, we haven't gotten a copy of the film yet, and they hadn't got it. They didn't get it until like the third showing of the day, like the 8 o'clock show, and so that's the one we had to end up going to. They're like, I was like, oh man, there were a lot of people that were ticked off.
I could just imagine. What is it? What was it? Maybe my theater was like that. I can't remember. I just know my dad he called and said, "Look, hon, we can only go at 8 o'clock. They don't. He told me everything before 8 o'clock was sold out. So I took it as that. But what? Maybe you think maybe they just weren't prepared, and they just weren't prepared as a big audience because the same thing.
Like I said, back then, distribution was way different. These films weren't like released to like 3,000 theaters like they are nowadays. These films were like, select theaters all over the place. When I went to go see Return of the Jedi, I saw it the day after my high school graduation, and I had to drive up to, I don't know if anybody's, I live in Southern Maryland. If anybody's familiar, that like Maryland looks like a gun. I live down the bottom of the trigger. I live at the bottom of the trigger. But if I had to drive up to DC, near DC, to go see it, because it was that was the closest theater, and so I had to me and a friend who skipped school drove up the next day to see like the 11 o'clock show. Or something like that, and he had his father's permission, and his father was a teacher, to go with me. He was like 16, I was 18, whatever. But we were both just really big fans of it. And we went to go see it, but we had to drive like 2 hours to go see it.
That must be it. We had to find. My dad looked in the paper and. To find one that was closest to us, but the only showing was 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. He wanted one earlier. Now for Jedi, I believe we were able to get an afternoon show, but Al, I had to do like you. I had to get out of school early to see it. So I asked Dad, hey Dad, nothing is really going on. Can I just get out early to go see the film?
With the original Star Wars, my mother used to, if anybody's ever heard of Sarah Coventry jewelry, I don't know if any of you've ever heard of it. It's like this jewelry seller cult. I used to think of it as a cult because they would have meetings every week. Like basically it was a group of lady friends getting together and talking about jewelry and trying to sell jewelry or whatever. And my mother was a part of this, but she was a single mom because I lost my dad when I was 3. So what would she do? She would drop me at the theater and let me see Star Wars like twice in a row, like again and again and again and again. And I saw it over and over, and I never got sick of it. And then I remember one day she was going to a meeting and we went there, and it was finally gone after almost a year of being at the theater, and it finally left. And they had Starship Invasions, and I was like. And I was like, what? I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so upset. And I think I ended up going to see Smokey and the Bandit, which was the theater that was across the street. We had like 2 theaters that were like close to each other. Like you could literally see one from the other. But I was like, when it left, it was like, it was like getting off heroin.
Yes,
it was terrible.
It was terrible. The feeling. Yeah, same thing with me. It's like I think I saw Star Wars about 3 times, and I never. The original theatrical showing. I was like you, Al. I never got tired. Every time I went, it's like I was seeing it for the first time. And for Empire, I saw twice. The second time I didn't go. I went later on in the summer, but that's why my mom said, "You want to go back and see that Empire Strikes Back again, a second time? That you want to go to the roller rink?" I said, "No, Empire Strikes Back is playing in the theater in Atlanta," and I was like you. I said, "You while you guys are skating, just drop me off at the theater. I'll be okay. By the time I come out, you'll be done skating." And she's like, "You want to go and sit that movie again? Don't you want to go roller skating and listen to the music?" And I said, "No, I want to see I'll see this film and I'll be okay. Just I was totally lost
And of
in it,
course, and of
and
course, it's not like today where you just wait a couple months, you get the DVD. This was, it was gone.
right when it was
And you-
gone,
It was
it was gone.
gone, and I had to wait. Basically, I bought uh, a it was what are they? What, not a laser disc, but it was like the other.
I had a Laserdisc player, man.
But this one was like, it wasn't the laser. It played like a regular record. I forget what they called it, but
A
it
record player?
was it was a video disc. It was like the big one, and you would slip in the big thing and chuck it out. And halfway through the movie, you had to flip it over. And I remember because they sold these machines. We got the machine because they gave Star Wars free with it. That was the only reason we got one. But then, of course, thank God it finally, came out on VHS, and then, the world was okay. But yeah, it's people today who, younger people don't realize you just couldn't get it. You couldn't find it. There was no online to pirate it. You saw it in a movie theater or you didn't, and when it was gone, it was history.
Yeah, you're right. It was gone. Yeah, it was gone. So I tried to see it as many times as I could, so I could keep it in my memory. So I could never get it before
That's
VHS.
why you get the comics, you get the book, you get the storybook, you get the album with the story of all this stuff. You just listen to it over and over again, read the books over and over again, look at it. I mean, that's what you had to do. You didn't have the original film.
Exactly. You didn't have the luxury they have now. And I was like you. I bought the novelization of all the movies, Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. I had back then. They had like these trading cards, or I guess they were like baseball cards. You get a stick of gum in there, and then you had trading cards based on the film. I had one. I stacked up. I had all of them in every. Oh, that's great to hang on to. I had one for all of them for every film. I bought as many as I possibly could. Mama was like, "What is this girl got all these cards?"
Do you remember the Wonder Bread cards?
Yeah.
There was like 13, 15 of them or something. And I remember like you like trying to look under the Wonder Bread to see if it's the card I didn't have.
Yeah. I used to do that too. Yeah, I used to do that too. I used to open up the bread looking in there.
It was, and then of course the magic day when Splinter of the Mind's Eye came out. Finally, more Star Wars story to tell.
Yeah,
first one out. I remember staying up all night devouring that book because I needed it. I was a junkie.
Oh yeah, I was a big time junkie as well. I said, "But didn't you want me to see the movie?" I said, "No, I want to read the book. The book is different." But I was like you. I was a junkie, and I wanted to soak up as much Star Wars as I possibly could because, like you said, once it left the theater, you never knew when you were ever going to see it again. Back in the day, so I wanted to soak as much of it as I could get. So like the cards and the books, I had all the books and the stories it was based on. I read just about everything, and I just want to jump back to Princess Leia for a minute, and I don't know, I forgot to mention this moment is I when I talk about her throwing the fist, I love the fact in Jedi that she chokes Jabba with his own chain. I absolutely love that moment. I know in the theater I was in, everybody just went wild, with applause when she did that. And I said, it goes back to her. She's in distress, but not as distressed as you may think, because
and looking fabulous doing it, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, she did. But when people say, the Leia's never been strong, I'm like, did you see the scene where she choked Jabba? Did you just realize that? She's in that little bikini, but she's putting all her might and muscle into giving him, and I was plotting too. I'm like,
she choked that slug right out.
Yes, that's what I like about it.
Samuel Proctor, yes. I used to get the Marvel Star Wars comics. I used to read that. That was some good stuff. I wish I still had them.
yeah, I wish I still had them, but I did read them and I enjoyed reading them. Those was some great stuff. So going back to what you were saying, Al, I soaked up as much of it as I could because back then, like you said, you if you missed it in theaters, you didn't have the luxury of either, well, it's probably going to be streamed or download, or I'll wait till it comes out. It wasn't like that back then. Back then, when it was gone, you just never knew. And I can't remember. I'm trying to remember films between Star Wars that I liked or remember seeing. The only one I can remember between Star Wars was Superman.
Superman, yeah.
But
Well,
anything after that,
yeah, as far as like the big, well, there's Close Encounters.
oh yeah, and I did.
Smokey the Bandit. I remember those were pretty, pretty big when I.
Well, I think Superman and
speaking of those are the June films that I'm doing, Smokey the Bandit and Close Encounters. I'm doing a 77 retrospective.
Well, I liked Close Encounters. I can see why you would do that one. I think Close Encounters is a classic, and I think that was my first Spielberg film, or was it Jaws? I don't think I saw Jaws. My parents.
Jaws was mine.
Jaws was Jaws. I didn't see the first one. I didn't go again. It's mommy felt this might not be the film for you, so you stay at home. But mom and dad went, and I remembered them talking about it and hearing them talking about it. And it even scared me when they talked about it. I'm like, the shark is eating people? I don't know if I really want to see this film. And they talked about how much they loved it. But I did see Jaws 2 because my father said he had to school me about Jaws 1. Eventually I saw Jaws 1 later, and I said, I can see, back in the day, I can see why that was the hit that it was, because, and that was the first me getting inducted into the world of Steven Spielberg. And E.T. too, that's a film that, those are films I showed my nephews when they were at my age. When they were the age I was when I saw them, that's when I started showing it to them. Back then in the late 90s when they were young. And I would show them those films. And Spielberg was, the Jaws films, and then Close Encounters I really liked. I really liked that one because it has the sci-fi feeling to it. And just the way he told the story.
Yeah, I'm a big UFO guy. I like all those kind of mysteries of the world kind of thing, UFOs, Bigfoot.
I've always liked science fiction.
Yeah.
Even before Star Wars, I used to read in my local library. I would always get a lot of science fiction books. Isaac Asimov. My mind is like thinking the iRobot stories or the collection of Isaac Asimov stories. So I always liked science fiction. Now I think the only thing on television other than Star Wars, I was really into Buck Rogers. I love Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
Okay, you two, calm down.
That's Buck Rogers.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I just want to say something, like two things real fast.
Sure.
Sir Ian said he sent me a message, said he was having internet problems and he had to drop out, and it's also 4:00 in the morning in Scotland. So honestly, that man is a beast to stay up this late to talk to us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That I can understand why he has to go.
And my phone is about to die with the battery. So
are we at that point?
Yeah, I'm about at that point.
Oh, I can understand. Just you got to shut me up. Go right ahead and do that, because.
Well, I mean, we can stay up all night talking, but my phone's going to die. I don't know if that means the stream dies. But
yeah, I don't.
But thank you, everyone, for coming by and talking. I'd forgotten that this was Star Wars Day, and I thought, man, just to get some people together and just talk about our good memories of Star Wars and what we still enjoy, because there's more to enjoy than there is to hate in Star Wars by far. And I'm guilty of this. I get caught up in all the YouTube videos and all the rumors and all this and all that. And, like Mandalorian, I haven't watched it. I don't hate it. I can't really make a judgment on it. I ain't seen it. I got the Empire Strikes Back, damn it. That's all I need, But I've also got New Hope and Return of the Jedi. And I got those Ewok movies that came out. I got my soundtracks. I got my movie posters. I got a couple action figures, And I think sometimes we need to focus more on that than stuff that we just don't care about. And like if Al likes The Last Jedi, more power to you, Al. I love you. You're still a good guy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm
It's
not going to hate you for it.
It's not that I liked it. It's I didn't hate it as much as everybody else. And still, that's not enough for some people.
That's fine. And I'm very grateful for Mr. Ian coming by tonight. It was nice to have a new voice in the crowd. So,
and one with a Scottish accent.
Yeah, is Troy still around?
I am, yeah.
Okay, you're being quiet. But yeah, thank you all for coming by.
Dude, you brought Leia plus size on. I'm gonna sit here and listen to her all night long that I can. You know,
I understand.
I don't want to hear my own voice.
Has she not been on one of your shows?
I've not had the honor.
Well, yeah, she was there for a couple of my drunk streams. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's why you don't remember.
I don't remember it that clearly. That's right. It's a little fuzzy. Those are some fuzzy memories there. She came on to wish me a happy birthday, and I think she was there for one or two of the fixing the such and such universes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was the which one? Universal.
I think this Friday, because I hadn't set what I was going to do this week, I think I might just do a Star Wars stream. Not fixing Star Wars, not like I do with the other stuff, but just talk about some of this week's news and chat a little bit more about the toys. And boy, you got me excited talking about the glasses and the Burger King and stuff like that. So maybe that's what I'll do on Friday. Those of you that want to come join us.
Yeah, I'll be there if I can stay awake that long. If not, I'll catch you on the replay.
Yeah, I know how you are, man.
I'm not sure what's going on because we got I know Friday and Saturday we've got some people coming in to start getting stuff. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how late they're going to be. Because I told Fan Man, it's like, I'm not sure about Friday night, 8:00. I'm not going anywhere yet because I physically can't get there yet. So my bed's not going anywhere. I say my bed, and my TV and me all go at the same time, and the computer. So
I dig it.
That's the one we got to figure out. But we've got someone coming in to get some end tables and start packing up some of the things we're taking, because we're not taking everything. We're leaving a lot behind. We're just downsizing to the new life.
I dig it. Well, you do what you need to do, but everybody's welcome if you can make it on Friday. Looking forward to it. We'll make it a Star Wars week, huh?
Okay,
good idea.
That sounds like fun. Yes, that sounds like fun. And Daniel, I like what you said, that there's more focus on the good, because some people tell me, especially with Marvel, like, well, what you gonna watch? The old stuff? And
there's nothing wrong with
that. I will. And there's enough old stuff that you'll never get through it all. I mean, right. You're not going to read every Marvel comic that's been published since 1962. It's not going to happen. I mean,
true. Yeah, that's true. That's what.
And if Hollywood never made another movie after today, there's enough movies out there, and there's enough foreign films out there. It's like with film scores. There's so many film scores I will never get to listen to because, one, I don't know they exist because there's so much out there. I've enjoyed this last year seeking out old stuff and stuff I didn't even know what the hell it was, but I've sought it out and I've expanded my horizons. And we all need to do that more, I think.
Daniel, have you ever you've done that thing where, if you could only have if you were on a deserted island, you could only have 3 DVDs. What 3 would they be? The fact is, we don't have to worry about that. I look up at my, shelves of DVDs, over 600 DVDs,
but that's not the game, Troy. The game is you can only have 3.
No, I get that. But my point is, speaking to what Daniel was saying, we're not limited that way. And we can have, all the old stuff we want. And you're right. If you were to count up how many minutes each one of these DVDs, yeah, I probably, if I start right now, might not be able to watch them all before I die.
Well, like that, all the series that I've never seen, I could watch. Like I've never seen Game of Thrones,
which is why
I know. And I know the last season wasn't.
You dodged a bullet there, my friend.
You did. Good for you.
This is why I don't feel any impetus to justify why I didn't see this movie or that movie or whatever. Just because it's got, a star, doesn't mean I have to see it. I have other things that are that I know that I'm going to enjoy.
Just because Ape versus Monster has Eric Roberts, there's no reason to see that movie.
Did you hear what we were saying about that on Sunday? We were talking a little bit about that.
I heard a little bit about it, yeah.
He's got like 60 movies in the hopper.
I say he needs money or something, man, because there ain't no other reason he did that movie. It wasn't that he read the script and was like, I like this, I want to do it.
Either there, he's getting ready to retire and he just wants like 60 movies. I don't care if they're each paying him scale. That's money.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh. Maybe he's looking at Hollywood today and sees the writing on the wall and he's like, I better get out while the getting's good.
Or Sister Julia's cut him off.
Oh, maybe.
Is it a sister?
Yes, that's his sister. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sister, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Emma Roberts, who's his daughter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's his daughter, because that's Julia's. Yeah. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Juliet's drying up with the family and he's gotta find something to bring up a little bit.
I think it's getting tight for everyone in Hollywood right now.
Oh, I said Hollywood can't be a happy place right now. I don't think so. I don't think for some people, but I don't know. So divided right now. I don't know how happy actors are right now. Some of them have voiced it. Some of them have not. Some of them don't have to. I could read it on their faces, but.
Yep. All right.
Well, anyways,
let's let everyone wrap up the show.
Let's end on a positive note.
Yeah.
The force be with everyone. Adopt, don't shop. Keep listening to those great film scores. And thank you, everyone who came by tonight to chat, to be on the show, to watch sometime in the future and leave a comment. Thank you very much. If you do leave a comment in the future, tell me what your first Star Wars memory is. That would be a very interesting read for me. And I would love to read it from all the people who I don't know who you are. Leave me that memory. And have a great night, everyone.
And drop by Big Al Presents on Saturday night for Mars Attacks.
Oh,
Mars Attacks with Big Al. Troy on Friday night.
Yep.
And I'll be back Thursday night with H Boomer for The Little Mermaid with special guest Green Line Girl 07. Yes. So have a good night, everyone.
On Thursday night. Oh, okay.
Thursday night. Yeah.
Take care.